Welcome to the Fantasy Audiobook. Sign into the main god space. Invincibility starts from Demon Slayer. Chapter 61. Doma frowned after hearing Lizon's words. He has no human emotions, and all the emotions he expresses are just simulated states. It's just that he likes to play a humane version of himself. But for some reason, he felt something inexplicable when he saw the smile on the person in front of him that was similar to the one he often used. All in all, Doma didn't want to see the other person smile. How should I do it? Doma took out another iron fan engraved with lotus patterns, unfolded the fans, and waved them. Your Excellency Iwazuo, it was the other party who attacked me first. He was even in the mood to explain to Iwazuo. Vampire art. Lotus leaf ice. With the waving of the fan, lotus-shaped ice crystals swayed out, emitting extremely biting cold air and freezing air, and struck Lizon. It cannot be touched, not even the cold air emitted. Lizon is aware of most of Doma's abilities and the characteristics of his moves, so he will respond accordingly. The freezing air emitted by this ice lotus can freeze the skin of the opponent when it comes into contact with it, which will then freeze the air in the opponent's lungs and tear the lungs apart. Although Lizon believed that his body had reached the pinnacle of human strength in the Demon Slayer world, he was not sure whether his internal organs could withstand the freezing air that froze the air in his lungs and the air ice crystals that tore his lungs apart. So he won't take this move. Although these injuries can be recovered at will after becoming a ghost, there is no need to worry. But Lizon now intends to test his strength in the human state, and wants to know how strong he is in the human state without relying on ghost transformation. The breath of water, 3 patterns flowing dance. The breath of water that had not been used for a long time was used again. The gurgling water clings to the sun-loon knife, passing over the ice lotuses with Lizon's strange dancing steps. The slashes and flowing water accompanied by the dancing steps dissipate the oncoming freezing air. He edged closer to Doma. Vampire art. Scattering lotus flower. Doma took his time and continued waving his golden fans. For a moment, a large number of fine ice flowers as sharp as blades swayed out, covering all possible directions of Lizon's movement. There is no way to avoid it. But Lizon didn't panic at all. His breathing method suddenly changed, and the loose water at the corner of his mouth turned into scorching flames. The breath of flame, the type of sea, the Uzumaki of Shungyan. The rolling flames on the sun blade formed a vortex-shaped shield of flames with Lizon as the center during the swing, wrapping Lizon within it. Most of the ice flowers were burned up after touching the fierce flames and dissipated in the air. Destruction killed destruction style. As if the ultimate power that wanted to destroy everything suddenly came from the side, the impact and wind pressure isolated all irrelevant things. The shield-like fierce flames and remaining ice flowers were dispersed. The destruction style seems to include not only Lizon, but also Doma, who is under the attack range of the destruction style. Breath of mist, type 3 large spray. Lizon held the sun-loon knife backwards, with the tip of the knife facing the ground. The breathing method of mist replaced the breathing method of inflammation, and white mist escaped from the corners of the mouth again. The extremely rich mist suddenly spurted out from the tip of the knife, like a jet engine, and immediately carried Lizon upwards at high speed. In an instant, he was out of the scope of Yiwo Zaumishi. Within the scope of the destruction style, only Doma is left alone. Alas, Your Excellency Iwazuo, Doma sighed inexplicably. Then, the ultimate power that destroyed everything completely impacted his body, crushing Doma's body until only a little bit of his head was left. Lizon saw Iwazuo in midair, ignoring Doma who was almost beaten to a pulp by him, but leaping directly towards him. The breath of mist, type 2 fire flame of mist. In midair, Lizon activated the breathing method of mist, and swung the sun-loon knife continuously at extremely high speeds, and extremely dense mist gathered on the blade. Swinging again and again, slashing again and again. As the number of swings and slashes increases, the mist continues to superimpose and compress on the blade. When the Iwazuo was about to arrive in front of him, Lizon waved the sun blade for the last time. In an instant, the concentrated mist exploded in an instant, and the thick mist rushed out violently, knocking the Yiwo seat back like a missile and slamming into the ground. In the large pit created by Iwazuo, mist filled the air. The next second, the temperature in the pit suddenly rose, and all the mist turned into blazing flames in an instant, burning everything in the pit violently. Ah 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 ah. The muffled sound of the Yiwo seat due to the burning fire resounded loudly. There was a burning smell. Vampire art. Lotus flower. Doma's voice came from another direction. While Lizan was still in free fall, he had already recovered and immediately released the spell on Lizan, who was still in the air. Several ice vines entwined with ice lotus flowers suddenly emerged from Doma's body and rushed towards Lizan in the air, trying to restrain him. It's not easy to hide. Lizan realized in the air that these ice vines were difficult to avoid, so he had no choice but to continue waving the sun blade. The breath of fog, the shape of Wu, the ring of fog. Suddenly, the arc-shaped thick fog formed a semicircular ring shield in front of Lizan, resisting the invasion of Ice Vine Man. But what Lizan didn't expect was that at the next moment, an ice vine bypassed the ring shield made of thick fog and suddenly lashed towards Lizan. However, Lizan's reaction was very timely. In the blink of an eye, he raised the sun blade to hold the sudden Ice Vine Man. But the huge force coming from Bing Tengman still whipped Lizan and hit him to the ground. Sure enough, it is still a bit difficult for ordinary human beings to deal with the second Doma and the third Yiwazao. It takes a while to kill even one of them. Lizan stood up and dusted himself off. Not hurt at all, but in the world of Demon Slayer, Kumetsu no Yaiba, this is probably one of the few attacks that can hit me. What was it last time? Ah yes, it was Muzen's whip. Since it's a bit difficult to beat them both like this, then, let's make a stripe. Opening a stripe should kill both of them relatively quickly. Lizan suddenly thought. Jade pot, hands on. But just before Lizan was about to open the pattern, the pot around Lizan's waist suddenly shook. Lizan looked in surprise and saw that the pot suddenly shattered and the figure of the jade pot suddenly appeared. He stared at Lizan with extremely malicious eyes. The next moment, a hideous and terrifying arm emerged from Yuhu's mouth and suddenly grabbed Lizan's shoulder. Jung. A crisp pippa sound suddenly sounded from nowhere. The next moment, Lizan, Yuhu, Yiwo Zuo, Doma, and Miaoyi disappeared at the same time. Kocho Shinobu quietly guarded Purgatory Anjiro, watching Lizan fight against Yiwo Zhao and Doma. She originally wanted to help Tanjiro. But in order to warn Doma and protect Anjiro and the unconscious passengers behind her, she stopped her thoughts in time. When Doma stood up and looked this way, Kocho Shinobu's whole body couldn't help but tremble. He stared at Doma with angry eyes, and his slightly swaying arm was on the handle of the Nichiren sword. The face of Kocho Kanae slowly dying in her arms flashed through my mind. Elder sister. She was ready to fight. But what Kocho Shinobu didn't expect was that Lizan suddenly appeared in front of Doma, slashed at him several times and forced him back. In several confrontations, Kocho Shinobu has realized that the third ghost named Yiwazao is extremely powerful. Mr. Purgatory's all-out attacks could not bring down the ghost. The second ghost named Doma who killed my sister has a higher rank than Yiwazu, and must be much more powerful. And Lizan, who suppresses the third one on the upper string, is still able to spare his attention on the second one, the Doma. How strong must he be? Kocho Shinobu felt that his impression of Lizan's strength was once again refreshed. Even though he is already a pillar of the Demon Slayer Corps, he is still as powerless as before. A frustrated look appeared on Kocho Shinobu's face. In the next moment, she saw the Sanyivazuo of Shengxian once again use the powerful move he used against Mr. Purgatory. Be careful, she couldn't help but warn. Then he saw Lizan using his moves to dodge and heaved a sigh of relief. But when Lizan was hit to the ground in midair, her worried heart was high again. Boom. Kocho Shinobu saw with his own eyes that the pot around Lizan's waist was broken into pieces. That is the container that Lizan used to hold the jade pot using blood ghost skills. Before she could react, Yuhu's figure appeared, and a hideous and terrifying arm suddenly emerged from his mouth. What is that? Kocho Shinobu didn't understand that she had never seen this move before when she and Yuhu were dueling. In fact, it is probably the case that Kocho Shinobu has never seen it. After all, this is what happens when the curse hidden in the ghost breaks out. Then, with the sound of the pippa, both Lizan's figure and the two Shengxian who were fighting against him disappeared. What happened? Where did Lizan go? Kocho Shinobu was surprised and had an ominous premonition in his heart. Ms. Kocho Shinobu. Tanjiro's voice came. Kocho Shinobu turned around and saw Tanjiro Zenitsu Inosuke walking towards him while supporting each other. Except for Miduzi, their bodies were covered with wounds and bruises. It was obvious that they had gone through a very severe and fierce battle. The ghost we fought with suddenly disappeared, Tanjiro said to Kocho Shinobu. The ghost is gone too. The ominous premonition in Kocho Shinobu's heart became even stronger. Lee Zan and the ghosts he fought with disappeared, and the ghosts Tanjiro fought with also disappeared. But others had no problems at all. Kibutsuji will definitely target Lee Zan to take what he wants. Kocho Shinobu suddenly remembered what his lord had said at the Hashira conference. If this time is Kibutsuji's plan of action, to lure Lee Zan to come. The battle tried to relax Lee Zan's vigilance, looking for opportunities, reaching out from the mouth of the jade pot and grabbing Lee Zan's arm as a medium. The jung sound of the pippa is undoubtedly a kind of vampire technique that plays a role in teleportation. Lee Zan is transported to a specific place through the medium. In this case, what will be waiting for him at that place? Thinking about this, Kocho Shinobu's face turned a little pale. Kibutsuji no Misagi, 12 Kazuki all the strings, there may even be other ghosts. Her mind became unstable, and her body began to shake a little. Lee Zan, in order to save us, we fell into the enemy's hands. Is Mr. Purgatory okay, Miss Kocho Shinobu? Tanjiro asked worriedly, looking at the unconscious Purgatory Anjiro. He is fine, Kocho Shinobu responded with a weak voice. It's fine, Tanjiro said with a smile, but while speaking, he smelled the uneasy and sad emotions emanating from Kocho Shinobu. What happened, Miss Kocho Shinobu? Tanjiro asked worriedly. In his opinion, everyone is fine. No one among the passengers was injured, the ghost disappeared for some reason, the fighting self, Zenitsu and Inosuke did not suffer any life-threatening injuries, Mr. Purgatory was fine, Ms. Kocho Shinobu was in good condition, and Yadoko who suddenly arrived with Ms. Kocho Shinobu was also no problem at all. So he didn't know what Kocho Shinobu was upset about. Tanjiro has been in a fierce fight with the ghost turned and Miyagi, and has no mind to care about others. The arrival of Kocho Shinobu was only known because of the appearance of Miduzi, so he did not know that Lee Zan was also here. Lee Zan was taken away. Kocho Shinobu said something that surprised Tanjiro. Is Lee Zan here too? Miss Kocho Shinobu? Tanjiro asked anxiously, why was he taken away? In his heart, Lee Zan had already occupied a very important position and was his extremely important big brother-like friend. But now Kocho Shinobu tells him that Lee Zan has been captured by a ghost. Why doesn't this make him anxious? Aha, Miduzi on the side also showed a worried look, humming to show his anxiety. We have to find a way to rescue Lee Zan now. Kocho Shinobu did not answer Tanjiro's question, but told him what actions should be taken now. Then, she made a move. Immediately, a crow flew from the distant sky and landed on Kocho Shinobu's hand. Infinite train, encountering Shion Ursan, Purgatory coma, no passengers died, Lee Zan was transported to an unknown location by the vampire technique. She explained the situation as briefly as possible, and then asked the bird to pass the information to the Lord. She didn't know what to do next, so she wanted to send the information to the Lord immediately and let the Lord plan and direct. Under the candlelight, Uyashiki Kagaya was silent after listening to the news from the bird. Sir, Uyashiki Amane looked at him worriedly. Alas, Ubuyashiki suddenly sighed. The expression on his face looked a little sad. I prevented Anjiro's death, but the price is so. Quote. He faced the gradually appearing white fish belly on the horizon, and was illuminated by the gradually emerging brightness. But he couldn't feel any brightness in his heart. We can only hope that Lee Zan can escape with his own abilities. Ubuyashiki was hopeful and worried at the same time. After the news of Lee Zan's capture spread to other pillars. Lee Zan has been captured. Is his life or death uncertain? On a certain roof, Yusui Tengen listened to the news from the crow, his face gradually became serious. Ha! Yihei Xiaoban, who was leaning against the tree with his head lowered, sneered, with a hint of irony in his words, the end of the guy who talks shamelessly is indeed. But the next moment, a sound of tutting came out from under his mask. Mr. Lee Zan, Kanroji Mitsuri, who was sitting on the bench, was in disbelief. In a certain training ground, Shinazugawa-san waved the Nichiren sword in his hand, and the violent wind struck the wooden stake like a sharp blade. His eyes were filled with violent bloodshot eyes. There was no change in the steps of Muichiro Tokudaro walking in the dense forest. Sitting on the rocks, Mingyu Xingming shed 2 lines of clear tears from his eyes. He clasped his hands and recited silently, Namo Amitabha. Is that so? I understand. Tomioka Yoshiyuki, who was walking on the street, nodded expressionlessly to show that he understood, and continued walking without any hesitation. But his hand unconsciously placed on the handle of the Nichiren sword at his waist. This is where, when Li Zan came back to his senses, he found that he was standing in a strange place. Classic Japanese-style buildings are everywhere, and the spatial layout of the buildings is strange and scattered, as if they have been deliberately twisted. Distorted and unordered space, directional cognition cannot play any role here. The empty corridor does not show any vitality. The light emitted from the lanterns placed is slightly dim and dark, reflecting everything around it. The name of this place appeared in Li Zan's mind. Infinite City, a safe house built without mercy. It is also his base camp. It seems that the jung sound of the pipa just now was Narum's vampire technique. Li Zan's mind turned quickly. It was probably Muzan who inspired the curse of the jade pot through his bloodline to deliver the power to break the pot, and then use the power of the curse as a medium for Naruto to use the vampire technique to bring him to Infinite City. He knew most of the information about Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yaiba, and could easily deduce Muzan's action steps. What about the jade pot? Li Zan looked around himself, but there was no trace of the jade pot at all. I thought it would be passed on together. I still want to chop it with a knife. Jung. Another familiar pipa sound sounded. After the sound fell, Li Zan suddenly noticed that many eyes were pointed at him. The extremely strong smell of ghost assaulted his nostrils. Many figures suddenly appeared in the surrounding corridors and stairs. Curiosity, greed, jealousy. The meanings contained in the sights pointed towards each other are different, but they all have the same meaning. That is absolute malice towards Li Zan. Li Zan looked around. There are people who are expected and there are people who are unexpected. Standing on a tall building and looking down, Kibutsuji appears in a female kimono. In a certain corridor, 6 eyes silently looked at Kokushibo, one of Li Zan's wind strings. Yao sat on the eaves of a certain house, fanned and smiled, looking at Li Zan's second piece of doma. Squatting like a lion on the railing of a certain corridor, the Sani nest seat of the upper string is ready to go. Huddled in the corner, he secretly watched Li Zan's swollen forehead, double horns on his head, and Hantengu, the 4th part of the old man's face. Standing on the tatami, staring at Li Zan's 5 jade pots with resentment and hatred. Sitting on the window edge of a certain building, I looked curiously at Li Zan, a beautiful woman with 6 flower buns in her head and flower tattoos on her left face and right forehead, who had an extremely enchanting temperament. Behind her, the head of a young man with medium to short black and green hair, black spots all over his face, and gloomy eyes appeared vaguely. That is Gyutaro, who is also the 6th one of the upper strings, and the fallen princess are 2 in 1. Even if one of the ghosts is beheaded by the Nichiren sword, he will not die. Sitting behind Kibutsuji Muzan, Narum, the controller of Mugen City, holds a bipa and her long hair is spread out to cover her face. These were the targets that Li Zan expected. Although so many heavyweights from the ghost camp arrived at once, he didn't feel much surprise after all. But there was also a female ghost figure standing on the eaves, playing with her head on her waist, who was his unexpected target, which made him feel a little surprised. And Miaoyi, with the 3 new heads around her waist. Hu Yan, Huang Ming, an unknown middle-aged fat man. Where is Lin Danwei? Li Zan felt a little strange when he saw that there was a new person missing. But it's probably more of a misfortune. There's a 90% chance he's dead. Li Zan thought. But these teammates of mine seem to be a bit unlucky. There were a total of 5 seniors, 2 met Kibutsuji Muzan and were killed by Muzan, 1 was frightened by Muzan and became insane and had a huge psychological shadow, 1 was turned into a ghost by Muzan, and 1's whereabouts are unknown. The heads of 3 of the 4 newcomers except himself are hanging on the waist of an Miaoyi, who has turned into a ghost, and the whereabouts of 1 is unknown. What bad luck. Tell me, how can you transform between humans and ghosts? Wuhan's condescending and cold voice suddenly came. He was now absolutely sure not to let the other party escape. With 12 Kazuki's 6 top strings gathered together and even himself included, how to escape from the absolutely closed Mugen City? Absolutely impossible. The opponent's demonic power shown last time was only similar to that of Kokushibo. Mumi thought that maybe he didn't even need to take action and could defeat the opponent with just 6 strings. I won't tell you. Li Zan's response was exactly the same as the one he got from Wuhan when they met in the alley last time. I will eat you if you don't tell me. You can't escape. The sharp vertical pupils in Wuhan's eyes glowed red. Rather than eating Li Zan directly, Wushan actually wanted to get an answer from the other party, and then eat the other party after getting the answer. It sounds like you will let me go if I tell you. Li Zan said with a smile. He already knew what kind of ghost Wu Mei was and what the other party was thinking. I'll let you go if you tell me. The corners of Kibutsuji's mouth curled up slightly, and there was an evil light in his eyes. Who are you kidding? Li Zan pointed the sun blade at Wuhan and said flatly, if you want to take my word for it, just do it. Do it. The corners of Kibutsuji's raised mouth gradually softened, and he waved his slender arms and ordered. Boom. As soon as Wuhan's words fell, a figure couldn't hold it any longer, and his strength exploded instantly, crushing the wooden corridor where he was standing, and his whole body hit Li Zan like a speeding cannonball. So enthusiastic. Li Zan's extreme eyesight and reaction ability naturally recognized that the one who came suddenly was Shang Xian San Yi Wo Zuo, a ghost who was obsessed with martial arts and crazy about fighting. Turn on stripes. As the thought fell, a series of evil white lines suddenly appeared on Li Zan's face. What does it feel like to have markings on? Li Zan also said he didn't quite understand. Anyway, it is absolutely inevitable to greatly improve your physical fitness. Li Zan felt that his current state after turning on his stripes was stronger than the ghost state he turned on after the last encounter with Wu Mei. The power contained within the body does not lie. Call. The long breath flows out along with the breathing method. The breath of fire, the type of one, Shiranui. Fierce flames gradually escaped from the corners of his mouth. The Sun Lune knife was raised slightly, and the next moment, Li Zan's figure disappeared from the spot, leaving behind only strings of burning flames along his path. Li Zan's figure was vaguely intertwined with the approaching figure of Yi Wo Zuo. Then Yi Wo Zuo's flying body seemed to lose its balance and suddenly hit the place where Li Zan was standing, exploding into clouds of gray smoke. After the gray smoke dissipated, Yi Wo Zuo's slightly frightened face was revealed. His pupils shrank violently and expanded, and he held his neck tightly with both hands. On his neck, there was burning fire. There was only a little bit of flesh and blood left on the neck. It was obvious that he had been struck by the sun blade just now, and his head was cut off even if there was only a trace of it left. Almost died. Yi Wozuo looked at the figure standing on the eaves with fear, the sun blade lowered, looking at himself calmly. Oh, Your Excellency, Yi Wozuo almost died. The smiling Doma couldn't help but put away his smile when he saw this scene. The winding ghosts who were 3 steps away before winding up also looked at the figure holding the sun sword in amazement. The speed just now was ridiculously fast, and there was no movement of the body or movement of the sword. They couldn't help but think about the scene when the knife struck them just now. He will die, they feel. Why is his speed so much faster than before? Staring at Li Zan, Yi Wozuo had unclear thoughts in his mind. He tried to observe the other party's fighting spirit, but suddenly found that there was no gap in his vision filled by the opponent's rich pale fighting spirit, and he could not even see anything. Why is it so much more exaggerated than the overwhelming vindictiveness just now? The technique unfolds to destroy the killing Luo needle. Yi Wozuo thought silently in his heart. A 12-pointed snowflake formation emerged again. The next moment, Yi Wozuo felt that the compass needle under his feet had lost its effectiveness, because the surrounding space was filled with the opponent's strong fighting spirit. The compass needle is giving warnings all the time, conveying dangerous information all the time. Attacks and avoidances will be deflected irregularly, which will instead affect one's own combat. The core of Yi Wozuo's vampire technique was thus destroyed. He had no choice but to put away the compass needle technique. Patterns. Kokushibo, who was in the corridor, couldn't help but said calmly when he saw the strange lines appearing on Li Zan's face. Zezai. Only then did the string ghosts notice the sudden change in Li Zan's body. The pale lines extend from the face to the neck. This was the first time they had heard of markings, and they had never seen such things on the swordsmen of the Demon Slayer Corps they had killed before, even if the swordsmen they killed were pillars of the Demon Slayer Corps. Why does it feel familiar? Looking at it, many winding ghosts felt that the lines were somewhat familiar. Suddenly, many upper string ghosts looked back at Kokushibo, one of the upper stringers. Then I saw the red markings from his left forehead and right chin to his neck. Lord Kokushibo, like those on your face? Doma asked Kokushibo. Kokushibo glanced at him and responded, well, only breathing swordsmen can open it, but humans who activate the stripes will basically die before the age of 25, because opening the stripes is like borrowing life from heaven and overdrafting everything. Kokushibo, come on. Muzen's cold voice came. He is not interested in stripes, he just wants answers from the other person or to eat the other person. Okay. Kokushibo nodded. He pays attention to the relationship between superiors and subordinates, and will fully obey the instructions given by his superiors, so he drew the knife from his waist to Lizan. This sword is called Kokushibo, and it is a ghost blade forged from Kokushibo's own flesh and blood. The blade, handle, and handle are all covered with blood-red eyes. This knife will produce countless moon blades as Kokushibo slashes. The size and length of these moon blades will change from time to time. They have no fixed shape and are hard to guard against, and they will be cut without realizing it. If the sword is damaged, it can instantly grow back to its prototype, and as he releases his strength, it will evolve into a longer alien blade with staggered blades. It is an extremely powerful weapon. Is Kokushibo going to take action? Lizan's expression became a little more serious when he saw Kokushibo pull out Virtual Crying God. There is no doubt that the opponent is very strong. The ghost transformed from the swordsman who opened the initial breath of the pattern has even reached the highest level of being able to see through the world. So Lizan had to take this guy seriously. After all, Lizan is not absolutely sure that he can completely defeat Kokushibo in his current striped state. But I don't care whether it can be completely defeated. Before that, let's get rid of some miscellaneous fish first. Lizan suddenly thought of it. The next moment, the mist-breathing technique suddenly started to work. An extremely rich white mist suddenly bloomed from Lizan's Azure Nichiren sword blade, spreading at an extremely fast rate. The entire area around him was shrouded in white mist. The moment he saw the mist emitting from the opponent's Nichiren sword blade, Kibutsuji frowned and immediately pulled Naru to his side to prevent the opponent from being directly hacked to death by Lizan and causing the collapse of Infinite City, although he thought that Lizan we don't necessarily know that Infinite City is supported by Naruko. The white mist spread and was shrouded in white mist, and an ominous premonition suddenly appeared in the heart of every Shangxian ghost. Especially Yuhu, as the first experimenter of Li Xuanwu's breathing, the memory that made ghosts unable to look back emerged, and he was naturally frightened. The vicious eyes that were staring at Lizan couldn't help but retract, to be wary of the blade that might appear in the thick fog at any time. There are so many ghosts here. I shouldn't be able to find them. The breath of fog, the shape of one, the fog gradually becomes brighter. Yuhu suddenly heard an indifferent voice coming from the white mist beside him. A look of horror appeared on his face. But Lizan would not stop swinging the sun blade because of this. The deep blue blade silently cut across Yuhu's neck. The fish scales on his neck were cut open like pieces of paper, and his face was forever fixed in a look of horror. Why me again? This was Yuhu's last thought. Jung. The crisp sound of Pippa sounded. Under Naruko's vampire technique, all the creatures present shifted space and came to another place in Infinite City. The thick fog that caused Lizan no longer enveloped the ghosts. After all, it is impossible for Lizan to release a thick fog that is enough to cover the entire Infinite City. So as long as Naru Nu broadcasts everyone present to other places, the thick fog without the support of Lizan's power will gradually dissipate. The white fog disappeared and the vision became clear. The crowd immediately looked for Lizan. He is then seen in front of a headless body. Is there a ghost dead? Who is that? Everyone raised their eyebrows and looked closely. The body is weird and covered with fish scales. Shockingly, I discovered that it was Yuhu's body. Yuhu is dead. In just a few seconds after the thick fog spread, a Shangxian died like this without any ability to resist. Can't believe it. In particular, Hantengu, Fallen Princess, and Gyutaro were full of surprise and uncertainty. The Jade Pot is the fifth of the upper strings, one level lower than Hantangu, one level higher than Fallen Princess and Gyutaro. They know very well in their hearts that except for the first three stringers, the remaining three stringers are all about the same strength. If the other party can kill Yuhu instantly, it also means that he can kill himself instantly. Besides, Master Yivazuo was almost beheaded just now. If you do, you will definitely die. Can't go up, absolutely can't go up. They couldn't help but have this thought in their hearts. But this cowardly thought seemed to be seen through by Wu Kai, and he glanced at the three of them indifferently. Immediately, the hearts of Hantangu, Fallen Princess and Gyutaro jumped suddenly. My thoughts were seen through by Master Wuhan. At this time, Li Zan was thinking about the change of scene. Is the Type 1 no longer useful? If Narum can transfer the people in Mugen Castle at will. The mist emitted by the mist breathing technique has no effect at all. The breath of the moon, the shape of one, the dark moon, the palace of the night. Suddenly, Kokushibu's figure appeared next to Li Zan, and the god of crying swung out in the form of Ai, so fast that the naked eye could not see it clearly. The wind pressure invaded, and many full moon blades appeared on the slashing path of Shu crying god, trying to tear Li Zan apart. Oh, Li Zan immediately realized that Kokushibo came to him not by teleportation, but by his extreme speed. However, Li Zan's reaction was not slow, and he also responded to the opponent's slashing attack. He leaned slightly and narrowly avoided Kokushibu's eye slash. But the full moon blade that followed the slash was not dodged by Li Zan and continued to tear towards him. The breath of fog, the shape of Wu, the ring of fog. At the critical moment, Li Zan swung the sun blade to create an arc-shaped fog shield in front of him, wrapping all the round moon blades in it, causing them to lose their direction in the fog, collide and dissipate. The breath of the moon, the shape of two, the pearls and flowers make the moon. Kokushibo was not afraid of the curved fog shield at all. He rushed directly into the fog shield and instantly penetrated the white fog to reach Li Zan. He turned his body and waved two blade winds, carrying countless full moon blades towards Li Zan. Zan cut away. Rushed over. Li Zan was a little surprised that Kokushibo could penetrate the white mist and accurately find his direction. The reason for the transparent world. His mind was spinning rapidly, and the sun blade in his hand hung slightly, with the tip of the blade facing the ground. Breath of mist, Type 3 large spray. It was as if a large mass of compressed mist burst out from the tip of the blade in an instant, generating a huge driving force that drove Li Zan backward at a high speed, away from the attack range of blade wind and moon blade. The breath of the moon, the shape of sea, reflecting the moon, riding the wind. When Li Zan quickly retreated, Kokushibo put his toes on the ground and stepped hard. His body was like a fast arrow following Li Zan's figure. After approaching, he slashed upward with the blade in his hand, bringing out the Tuangwan moon blade. It's so fast. Should it be said that it is worthy of being one of the top strings? Li Zan looked at Kokushibu's rapid and continuous offensive and couldn't help but sigh in his heart. But, it's not enough. The Nichiren sword in his hand slashed downwards, carrying extremely huge power, and collided with Kokushibu's demon sword while it was still swinging upward. Boom! Li Zan's Nichiren sword met Kokushibu's demon blade, making the sound of gold and iron. Such great power! Kokushibo looked at Li Zan with an indifferent expression with 6 eyes, thinking in his heart. The huge power transmitted from the Nichiren sword in the opponent's hand has pushed his void-crying god down, stopping his tendency to slash upwards, and the full moon blade brought out can only move downwards. Kokushibo knew that the power of his sword swing was no longer as powerful as the opponent's slash, so he cleverly changed the direction of the force in an instant, slid his sword along the blade of the opponent's Nichiren sword, and left Li Zan Nichiren sword, of restraint. The moment he left, he turned around and slashed at Li Zan. You really can't be careless for a moment. Li Zan thought about it when he saw the other party reacting in time and swung the blade. Breath of mist, Type 3 large spray. The same sword shape was used again, and the power generated by the mist instantly lifted Li Zan upward to avoid the slashing blade. In order to avoid repeating the situation that Kokushibo followed, Li Zan immediately changed his breathing method the second he jumped away from the blade. The light mist coming out of his mouth suddenly turned into scorching flames. The breath of fire, the type of one, Shiranui. Li Zan, who was still retreating sharply in midair, felt as if he was stepping on the air in an instant. His extremely fast figure turned from retreat to attack, bringing sweeping flames towards Kokushibo. Kokushibo frowned. He knew that this was the move that was aimed at Yi Zuo. He almost killed Yi Zuo with a knife. He should not take it lightly. The breath of the moon, the shape of Wu, the vortex of the moon soul. Kokushibu's figure quickly rotated, bringing up huge swirling blade winds around him, and leaving countless full moon blades on the whirling trajectory of the blade wind. This is a defensive technique. It can deflect enemies that rush towards you and cause serious damage. Although Li Zan knew what kind of move Kokushibo was, he didn't hesitate at all. Li Zan was seen following the fierce flames directly into the whirlpool of blade wind. Boom! A violent explosion sounded. The wooden building was burned by the fire, and the flying smoke that was cut by the wind blade blocked all sight, making people look down upon the scene inside. What happened? What was the result? Yuasa, Hantengu, Fallen Princess and Gyutaro all stared intently at the exploding gray smoke, eager to see what was inside. The sound of fighting did not continue, indicating that something must have gone wrong with one of the parties after this collision. Who could it be? Is it Lord Kokushibo or the human named Li Zan? Kibutsuji, who lives high up in the building, has a face that is as cold as frost. It seemed that even the emotionless Doma was interested, so he unfolded the iron fan with the flower pattern and waved it happily. A cold wind blew up and immediately blew away all the gray smoke. After the gray smoke dissipated, what was shown in front of the ghosts was a scene that made the ghosts stunned. In that scene, Kokushibo stood on the broken building fragments, holding up his own demon blade. Most of his body was cut off, and the ghost blade he held was broken, leaving only the handle. His Excellency Kokushibo. Doma was very surprised. As the second of the top strings, he also knew very well how powerful Kokushibo, one of the top strings, was, otherwise he would not have just succumbed to the position of the second string of the top strings. If he initiates a bloody battle of changing positions, he will undoubtedly die at the hands of Lord Kokushibo and be devoured by him. Doma was even more surprised because he knew the gap between himself and Kokushibo. He has never seen Kokushibo in such a miserable state. And Mr. Kokushibo is in such a state, but the other party. Doma looked at Li Zan, who was standing on the street, with no change in his body and no damage to his robe, and thought to himself. It's precisely because of the comparison that it seems scary. Even Doma without emotions feels this way, let alone other strings. Yuazao, Hantengu, Fallen Princess, Gyutaro, one of them has a look of surprise on his face. Among them, Yuazao once launched a bloody battle with Kokushibo, and was the only one who was spared by Kokushibo without being killed or devoured. In his understanding, Kokushibo has undoubtedly reached the highest level and has profound attainments in it, but now Kokushibo is beaten like this by the other party. He also said that he had not reached the highest level. Yivazuo stared at Li Zan closely, gritting his teeth. The burning flames continued to burn on Kokushibu's wounds. His face, which was missing half of his head, looked at the other half of his missing body. This indescribable pain. Why regeneration is so slow? Kokushibo was a little puzzled, and then he looked at his own void-crying god, who was also slowly regenerating, and suddenly understood. Does that slash have the effect of preventing regeneration? At the same time, Kokushibu's psychological activity was detected, and Wuhan's face changed drastically. A slash that can prevent regeneration and cause intense pain. Breath of the sun. Only the breath of the sun can do this. Suddenly, Kibutsuji felt a dull pain, a burning pain, from the wound that was cut by Enichi Sukuni hundreds of years ago. He can breathe the sun. And he can turn into a ghost, which is not under my control. What the hell is this guy? As he thought about it, Wuhan's face became more and more gloomy. Kokushibo, kill him quickly. A cold command came from Wu Mei's mouth. He no longer wanted to get an answer from Li Zan, he just wanted to kill him and then devour him. And you, Kibutsuji's cold vertical pupil swept across the rest of the upper strings, don't make me think you are useless. Sennin's words made the Shengxian ghosts tremble in their hearts, except for Doma, who had no emotions and was not afraid. They felt as if the curse cast by Kibutsuji was about to try in their bodies. Yes, Lord Wuhan. They responded immediately. It seems that the entry-level breath of the sun is still a bit weak. Li Zan muttered to himself as he looked at Kokushibo, who was regenerating and reaching full status again. He did use the breath of the sun just now. The moment he used Shiranui to pass through the wind blade and cross the full moon blade to approach Kokushibo, he changed his breathing method and replaced the breath of fire with the breath of the sun. One of the biggest effects of breath of the sun is to block the regeneration ability of ghosts. Ghosts injured by breath of the sun will feel extremely painful and have difficulty regenerating. This is also the reason why Kibutsuji detected Kokushibo's psychology and thought that Li Zan had mastered the breath of the sun. After all, he was hacked by the founder of the breath of the sun, Enichi Jikuni, with the breath of the sun hundreds of years ago, and he still can't do it now. Haven't recovered yet. However, it is not just the breath of the sun that can prevent the rebirth of ghosts. A thing called the He Dao can also block the rebirth of ghosts, and the He Dao is transformed from the Sun Lun Dao, but just like the stripes, the He Dao needs the knife holder to learn to open it. According to the memory of Demon Slayer manga Li Zan, he can roughly conclude that the way to open the He sword is to use a strong grip, or the collision between weapons causes the temperature of the sword to rise, thus turning the Nichiren sword into a He Dao. But Li Zan has not yet reached a conclusion on this method, and no one has mastered the current pillars, and Li Zan doesn't know how to. But compared to the He Dao, the blow of sun breath will also cause severe burning pain. This is one of the reasons why Wu Kei hates breath of the sun so much. So he teamed up with Kokushibo hundreds of years ago to kill all the swordsmen who use the breath of the sun. This also directly led to the loss of breath of the sun. Li Zan used the breath of the sun to kill Kokushibo, but because his proficiency in the breath of the sun was only at the entry level, it was far from enough. Even the effect of blocking regeneration was not much stronger. As a result, Kokushibo can return to his original state relatively easily after serious recovery. "You are very strong." Looking at Li Zan, Kokushibo said words of admiration. "It's okay," Li Zan replied calmly. "So I will fight you seriously." Kokushibo raised the recovered void-crying god. The next moment, the blood vessels and tendons on his body suddenly increased in size, and the blade of the Shukrei Shenku in his hand gradually became longer, and some sharp blades grew staggeredly from the blade. He completely liberated his own power and showed the terrifying posture of crying out in vain. Around Kokushibo, the other strings were ready to go. Doma stood up slowly, unfolded 2 iron fans with lotus patterns, and looked at Li Zan from the eaves, showing a gentle smile that was harmless to humans and animals. Yivazuo did not deploy the Luo Gen technique, but simply adjusted his own state and brought the fighting spirit in him to its peak. Hantangu, who was hiding in the corner, leaned out. In front of him, 4 young figures with double horns on their heads suddenly appeared. The emotions on the faces of the 4 young figures are different, including joy, anger, sadness, happiness. Shengxian and Si are respectively engraved in their eyes, and the words engraved on their tongues can be vaguely seen from their open mouths. They are happiness, angry, sadness, and happiness, respectively. The fallen princess sitting on the edge of the window jumped to the ground lightly, her silver hair rising without any wind, and the colorful ribbons derived from her body kept shaking. The head of the gloomy young man behind her also slowly crawled out, revealing Gyutaru's entire body. He was naked to the waist, hunched over, and skinny, with dark spots all over his body and face. Both arms were wrapped with ribbons and held 2 bright red sickles like bones. Narum, who was sitting next to Kibutsuji, also put her finger slightly closer to the beepaw. They stared at Li Zan, and after Kokushibo took action, they would seize the opportunity to give Li Zan a thunderous blow. The shape of Shisi ferocious change. The sky is full of fiber and moon. Kokushibo moved. The alien ghost blade released from his hand slashed at Li Zan. In an instant, countless huge crescent-shaped blade winds were released from the blade, followed by countless giant full moon blades sweeping towards Li Zan. The corridors and buildings that stood between Li Zan and Kokushibo were destroyed by the blade wind and the full moon blade, carrying the power that seemed to flatten everything, like a natural disaster storm that would destroy everything. Oh hoo! Li Zan couldn't help but scream in surprise when he saw the momentum of this move. This seems a bit remarkable. It's completely different from the previous moves. Then let's try something more exciting. For a moment, Li Zan also felt a little excited. The white mist quickly dispersed around Li Zan's mouth as the breathing method reached its maximum limit. The mist attached to the blade seemed to gradually become manic with the ups and downs of his breathing. Then, he started to swing the Nichiren sword. 1 knife. 2 knives. 3 knives. 10 knives. 100 knives. Thousands of knives. 10,000 knives. As if immersed in swinging a sword, the speed of swinging the sword gradually increases, and the attached mist becomes more and more manic. Gradually, the number of times the Nichiren sword has been wielded has become countless. Every swing of the knife left an arc-shaped white mist knife mark in front of Li Zan. As the number of times increases, a well-woven mist network has been formed. The breath of mist, the type of Ju mist flame net sky. When the huge crescent-shaped blade wind carrying the giant round moon blade was about to approach, Li Zan swung his last sword and chopped away the mist net. The tiny mist network moved forward, weakly and slowly. But the moment the mist net touched the blade wind, the tiny mist net suddenly expanded and turned into a huge mist net. Showing absolute power, it pushed the sweeping wind blades and full moon blades back sharply, even covering some buildings that were not destroyed outside the blade wind, and continued to push towards Kokushibo and other upper strings. What it is. Fallen Ji looked at the overwhelming giant net, feeling extremely horrified. Is this something that a swordsman using breathing techniques can do? Muzan, who was standing at a high place, frowned when he saw the giant net, and ordered Naru on the side, teleport away. No, Master Wuhan. Naruto shook her head. We can't teleport away all the ghosts and that human in a short period of time. Obviously, the last time she teleported away all the ghosts and Li Zan made it impossible for her to continue doing so in a short period of time. The rejected answer caused the blood vessels on Wu Mei's face to bulge, making him look ferocious and terrifying. Cut it off, Kokushibo. Wu Kai ordered. Yes, Kokushibo responded with a steady voice. 8-type moon dragon wheel tail. The evolved ghost blade is held horizontally and slashes forward. The huge arc-shaped knife wind suddenly swept out, accompanied by countless giant round moon blades cutting away at the giant web at extremely fast speeds. However, after the blade wind touched the mist net, it failed to cut it open. Instead, it continued to be pushed by the mist net, causing the mist net to grow even larger. A look of surprise appeared on Kokushibu's face. Could it be that the net formed by the mist becomes stronger when attacked? The next moment Kokushibo realized it, the huge mist net suddenly shrank, drawing in all the areas where the upper strings were located. Teleport us two away. Muzan never stood under any dangerous wall, and appeared directly outside the scope of the mist net with the sound of Naru's pipa. I can't seem to run away. Doma stopped jumping. Disperse it. Yivazuo used his own destructive style to continuously attack the mist net without causing any waves. Some tried to get out of the closing range, and some tried to break the mist net, but it was all in vain. The huge mist net leaves no gaps and continues to shrink, wrapping the objects inside. Suddenly, the temperature inside the mist net suddenly rose, and all the swords and mist weaving the mist net suddenly turned into flaming slashes, as if tens of thousands of flaming slashes were unleashed on the things inside at the same moment. There is no way to avoid it, there is no way to hide. Violent flames rose up, and under the flames, there were corpses cut into pieces. Only Kokushibo, Doma, and Iwazao were decent. It's just that each one lacks certain parts. But in the next second, all the scars on their bodies recovered instantly, and the wound corpses quickly gathered and returned to their original state. What is the meaning of these moves of yours? Kokushibo looked at Li Zan calmly and asked. The clothes on his body were cut into tatters by the flame slash, and he looked very embarrassed, but he was not actually harmed at all. These slashes separated from the Nichiren sword are completely meaningless. For ghosts, they are all attacks that can be recovered quickly. It doesn't make any sense, just for fun. Li Zan said with a smile. You guy. Hantengu's angry clone was furious and shouted angrily at Li Zan. There's no need to be so angry. Li Zan waved the sun blade casually and said calmly. So you've been teasing us? Yivazuo asked. Li Zan pondered for a moment and then replied directly, yes. What a bad guy. The harmless smile on Doma's face was no longer there. Absolutely the same as you. Seeing that Doma, who likes to laugh, didn't laugh, Li Zan laughed quite happily. The moment he finished speaking, a flying sickle suddenly flew towards Li Zan. The sun blade in Li Zan's hand blocked the flying scythe as soon as he lifted it. The sickle was blocked and returned to its owner's hand. It was Gyutaro. He was looking at Li Zan with hatred and said fiercely, "Kill you." He attaches great importance to his sister, but just now, his sister was cut into pieces in front of him. Although it can be restored, he will never let go of the guy who hurt his sister. Destruction, killing, chaos style. Hundreds of fist shadows came from the Yiwo seat. Vampire art fog ice water lily bodhisattva. Doma swung his fans and fanned out ice mist to form an extremely huge ice man, which looked like a bodhisattva sitting in meditation with his hands clasped together. The bodhisattva waved his palms containing huge power towards Li Zan. Vampire art fusion hateful heaven. Hantangu's 4 clones suddenly merged into a young man with 2 horns and a ferocious face. Dazzling manic thunder and lightning bloomed at his fingertips. Vampire art crazy thunder, kill. Vampire technique 8 level belt slash. 8 ribbons suddenly appeared behind fallen princess and swiped at Li Zan. Vampire technique, blood splashing scythe. Gyutaro swung the twin scythes in his hands at high speed. Breath of the moon, shape of picking up the land, moon rainbow, Guliuyu. As Kokushibu's blade waved, several giant blade winds fell from the sky to shatter the earth, and countless full moon blades fell down to hit Li Zan. Countless attacks attacked Li Zan from all directions at the same time. Li Zan's reaction was also extremely quick, constantly changing his breathing method, waving the sun blade, and using the most suitable sword shape to counter the incoming attack. As the main force, Kokushibo was holding back, and Doma was assisting, leaving Li Zan completely unable to free his hands to kill the remaining miscellaneous fish-like Hantangu who kept firing cold shots. High-intensity back-and-forth confrontations, swords and swords, ice and lightning, extreme wind pressure and spreading aftermath shattered everything around them, turning this area of Infinite City into an inaccessible dead zone. I'm afraid that even the most powerful pillar of the Demon Slayer Corps, Zhu Beimingyu Xingming, would have been overcome with hatred within a few seconds, and his peak body would have been beaten to ashes. A few minutes later, Li Zan jumped back and stopped temporarily. The aura on your body is declining. Staring at Li Zan, Kokushibo said indifferently. He had been paying attention to the other person's condition. Indeed, Li Zan himself also felt that his physical strength was at the bottom. Then go to hell, Kokushibo said flatly. It should be time to finish the warm-up and start getting serious. Li Zan responded with a smile. Turn on ghost transformation. The inner thoughts dropped. An overwhelming aura suddenly emerged. All the ghosts present were shocked. The scattered black hair extended to her waist, covering her face, and the pupils under the bangs gradually turned dark, without any trace of brilliance. Bright red lines appeared on the cheeks, complementing the pale narrow lines. The flesh and blood on the neck turned up, and a large number of evil eyes crowded around the exposed flesh and blood. The loose robes fluttered with the invisible wind emanating from the body. An extremely strong and ominous aura shrouded all the ghosts. The blue Nichiren sword in his hand also changed due to his ghost transformation. It was no longer blue, but looked a little mottled, as if it was constantly changing color. It seems that if the strength becomes too strong, the ghost transformation will have different changes. Li Zan couldn't help but look at the Sun Lun Dao in his hand, and felt something strange. The state of open stripes is a little stronger than the power of the ghost when he first met Kibutsuji Muzan, but what about now? It should be too strong. He felt the power surging in his body, regained his abundant physical strength, and thought to himself. The degree of increase in the ghost strength seems to be different each time the strength becomes stronger, unlike the power gained after signing in, which allows Li Zan to clearly know where the limit is. Therefore, the strength after becoming a ghost needs to be estimated. This is also the reason why Li Zan tests his strength step by step. Turning on the stripes can compete with objects, and turning on ghost transformation means that he can easily crush them. Therefore, Li Zan was not in a hurry to kill Mingnu and let Infinite City collapse. After all, it is possible to accidentally kill Naru with a knife. If all the ghosts come together when they are first pulled into Infinite City, Li Zan will directly activate the ghost transformation and kill Naru. Under the astonished gazes of many people, Li Zan slowly raised the mottled sun blade, the corners of his mouth on his cheeks slightly raised, and he made a hollow voice. Now is the official round. Quote, Under the shock of the ominous aura emanating from Li Zan, for a moment, no one took action. Aren't you going to go up? Li Zan's sun blade naturally dropped and he took a step forward. Then I will go up. Vampire technique blood-throwing scythe. The two sharp bone scythes that were thrown away with the words, stained with highly poisonous blood, rushed towards Li Zan with extreme wind pressure. Li Zan continued to move forward slowly, and at the moment when the bone sickle came quickly, he swung two swords at a speed that was completely invisible to the naked eye. Boom! Two short sounds of items breaking were heard. Immediately afterwards, the two bone sickles that were broken into 4 pieces quietly fell to the ground. It's disconnected. Gyutaro looked blankly at the bone sickle that was chopped open and fell to the ground. I just threw it with all my strength, just that simple. Originally, he planned to change the movement trajectory of the bone sickle when the opponent waved the knife and attack from a blind angle. But there is absolutely no such chance. Kokushibo, who was standing in front, looked even more solemn when facing Li Zan. The speed at which he swung the knife just now, I couldn't even see clearly. I couldn't catch the trajectory of the knife, and it was useless to observe the veins and muscles of the body through the world. Why was it so fast? Kokushibo doesn't understand. The arm he was holding in his arm suddenly shook slightly. Am I shaking? Thoughts arise. Unconsciously, a figure wielding a sword suddenly appeared in Kokushibo's mind. He has dark red hair, a high ponytail, red markings on his forehead, sunflower paper earrings hanging between his ears, wearing a red haori, and holding a black sword. That was Jigyu Enichi, incomparably powerful. From the two swords swung by the opponent, Kokushibo touched a feeling that he had not felt for hundreds of years. It was the same feeling I would feel when facing my younger brother Jiguiwan. Expand the technique and destroy the killing Luo needle. While Kokushibo was still thinking, Yuazao had already launched the technique. The 12-pointed snowflake formation reappeared. Although the effectiveness of the Luo needle has been invalidated due to Li Zan's fighting spirit, it will also have the side effect of deflecting the attack on its own. But the strongest attack he will use next is an all-round attack. So even if it is deflected, it can attack in all directions. Destruction Kill Final Style Green-Silver Chaotic Afterglow. Yuozuo rushed forward, his fighting spirit rising to the sky, and it suddenly offset part of the pale fighting spirit emitted by Li Zan. While running, he summoned all the needles back to himself. In an instant, countless extremely fast and violent silver missiles suddenly burst out from the fist shadow that emerged from his constant swing of fists. All directions will be included in the attack range. Even teammates in the ghost camp are under attack. This is Yuozuo's strongest attack. It is also a fatal blow that exhausts all your strength. Even so, it's a bit weak. The indifferent sound of silence resounded, and Li Zan's figure suddenly flashed. The ghosts present felt as if the scene in front of them had been framed. Li Zan's figure appeared and disappeared next to Yuozuo, appearing in another location. The silver missiles all over the sky suddenly dissipated, and Yuozuo rushed forward without stopping. As the strength supporting his body disappeared, he hit the ground. Lord Yuozao, Hantengu's cowardly body looked tremblingly at the body that fell to the ground without any movement. Your Excellency Yuozuo, are you dead? Doma's voice sounded. The eyes of the ghosts immediately moved back to Li Zan. Li Zan was seen holding the blood-stained Sun Lune knife in one hand and the ferocious-looking Yuozuo's head in the other. Master Yuozao died like this. Fear arose from the hearts of the 3 ghosts of Hantengu fallen Princess Gyutaro. Even Kokushibo-sama and Doma-sama couldn't stop it in time. Are you just going to die like this? Li Zan felt a little surprised when he held Yuaza's head. In the plot, Yuaza is one of the only 3 ghosts besides Kibutsuji and Kokushibo to break through the boundaries. 1. It has evolved to the point where even beheading with the Nichiren sword cannot cause death. If it weren't for the fact that they finally recalled all the human experiences before turning into ghosts, Tanjiro and Tomioka Giyu, who were seriously injured in the final battle with them in the plot, would have been in trouble. What was his reason for breaking the boundaries? Do you not want to fail and have the obsession to become stronger? Could it be that I am not obsessed enough because I already feel that I will definitely fail and will never reach my level of strength? Li Zan inferred this in his mind. But it doesn't matter, the reason why he didn't break through the limits, the fact is that he is already dead. The headless corpse of Yiwo not far away and the head in Lizan's hand have turned into smoke and disappeared. There is no longer the possibility of resurrection. Lizan knew that Yiwo was also a poor guy with a tragic past. As a human being, life was full of ups and downs. Relatives died, leaving behind a seriously ill father who stole to buy medicine, but his father died after all. Later, he met his benefactor and was saved. He fell in love with his daughter, went to his dead father's tomb before getting married, and told him the good news. After returning, he found that both his benefactor and his fiancée had been poisoned to death by evil people, and he killed all the evil people in anger. Later, in the confusion, he was turned into a ghost by Kibutsuji and lost everyone's memory. All that remains is the obsession to become stronger and the will not to kill or eat women. He's a miserable guy, but Lizan would not let him go because of this. It's not because Yiwo caused many innocent killings. It's because Lizan doesn't care about this. If you simply want to kill, just kill. This guy. Kibutsuji looked at Lizan below with a ferocious face. The aura exuding from the other party was much stronger than before, which made Muzan, who followed the principle of Go, undecided. Should I also take action to cooperate with the still-living Shangxian to take him down? If he takes action, the opponent will be a ghost swordsman who masters the breath of the sun. His strength is extremely terrifying, and he may also be in danger. But if I don't take action, my wish to become a perfect creature for thousands of years will not be realized. This is a hard-earned opportunity. In the infinite city that cannot be escaped, everyone gathers together. There will never be a better time than now. Should I just hope that he will die and continue to live in the dark night like I did when I avoided Enichi Jigyu? What should be done? The blood vessels on Wuhan's face swelled as he stared closely at Lizan's figure. This is the first one. An empty and indifferent voice came from Lizan's mouth. The jade pot doesn't count, it's something you kill casually when you're having fun. His eyes moved back and forth on the rest of Shangxian, as if looking for the next target. For a moment, the Shangxian ghosts other than Kokushibo and Doma were in danger, fearing that the other party would choose them. It's up to you. Lizan's footsteps sounded again as if he had chosen his target. Gyutaru's body was shaking inexplicably, and the other person's last gaze just now was on him. Although he is chosen as a target, he will never sit still and wait to be killed. Suddenly, Lizan's figure disappeared. Coming soon. Gyutaro was shocked, and his premonition of danger deepened. Vampire technique. Circle/spin. Even if the bone sickle is cut off, Gyutaro still has the means to attack. His hands surrounded by ribbons directly released a large-scale swirling blade wind of blood. This blade wind also carried a terrifying deadly poison. You guy, I'm going to skin you alive. Disembowel you. Take out your internal organs one by one. Gyutaru's mouth kept uttering extremely hateful words. Brother. Fallen Princess also came to protect her brother, with ribbons constantly flowing out from her body and lashing the area around him. Hantengu's powerful clone, Hayden, beats the drum behind his back to summon a huge wooden dragon to bite where Lizan might appear. Doma also waved his opponent's fan, bringing out ice lotus and gusts of freezing wind. Kokushibo slashed out his sword shape, and the curved blade wind and the wide moon blade appeared around Gyutaro. They all plan to keep Gyutaro. It's not because Gyutaro is so important, but because he wants to block Lizan's actions. But it's still slow. The picture that seemed to have been framed was reappeared. Lizan suddenly appeared next to Gyutaro, cut off his head with a swing of his sword, and then disappeared when Kokushibo noticed it and turned his sword to slash at him with a blade wind, returning to his original position. Gyutaru's head fell off like this. However, after being chopped off, Gyutaru's body and head did not turn into ashes. Instead, he still looked at Lizan with hatred, yelling, I can't die, even if you chop off my head, it will be useless. I am immortal. Ah. Yes. Hearing the other parties shouting, Lizan let out a sudden sound and dodged again. When he returned to the original place, there was already a female head on his hand. That was the head of Fallen Princess. Fallen Princess didn't seem to even react when her neck was cut off, and she didn't realize it until she saw her brother glaring at her side and her headless body. Ah, brother. She felt that she was about to die, and she couldn't help but let out a shrill scream of fear. Sister. Seeing that his sister's head suddenly appeared in the other person's hand, Yuteru's yelling suddenly stopped, and his face was stunned. The next moment, the two ghosts gradually disappeared in the gray smoke. It's really buy one, get one free. Li Zan's empty voice was like a life-threatening rope chasing a soul, exuding the most piercing chill. Let's just consider it the second one. Yutaro and Fallen Princess are 2 in 1, so they are counted as one by Li Zan. Ah, what should I do? What should I do? Hantengu's cowardly body is hidden behind Hamboshan, with tears in his eyes. Cowardly. Vampire art. Infinite karma tree. While Li Zan was still standing there, the extremely vigilant hate potion directly used the most powerful blood ghost technique. He held the drumsticks in both hands and hit the 2 taiko drums behind him at the same time, activating his blood ghost skills. In an instant, countless huge wooden dragons surged wildly, sweeping everything around them with sweeping power. The third one. An indifferent voice suddenly sounded next to the smaller Hantengu. The moment the voice fell, the last clone of Hantengu suddenly appeared in front of the direction of the voice. The clone was wearing the kimono of Hantengu's original body. It was huge, had a ferocious expression, and a ferocious face, with the word, hate, engraved on its tongue. This is the only remaining clone, hate ghost, that Hantengu will use in desperate situations. The clone quickly bit at the place where the sound came from, but it was all in vain. Over here, Li Zan's figure appeared in the other direction, and his voice also sounded. When Haodian quickly returned to defense, Doma swung out the Ice Vine Man, and the moment before Kokushibo swung out the slash, he raised the Nichiren sword and made a light crosscut. Hantengu's extremely hard neck suddenly broke like paper. The hateful sky dissipates. Hantengu, the 4th string, death. Li Zan returned to the place where he originally stood. There was an indifferent smile on Xieyi's face, looking directly at the only 2 remaining strings. Doma's face was expressionless, without any emotion, and he did not play his humane self as usual. Kokushibu's face was serious and solemn, and his arms with swollen veins clenched his hands and cried softly after being liberated. Compared with the scene when Li Zan first entered Infinite City, it is really different. The surrounding area is full of ruins, as if it had just experienced indiscriminate bombing. And among the 6 Shangxian ghosts who were still alive just now, in the blink of an eye, only the 2 highest-ranking Shangxian ghosts were left. 12 Kazuki, leaving only the upper string and 2 corners. Why don't you take action yet? Wushan. Li Zan looked back at Wu Mei, who was looking ferociously at the high pavilion in the distance, and thought in his mind. If you don't take action, I'll kill your 2 remaining cubs. Li Zan stepped forward towards Doma and Kokushibo. Cough. But the next moment, Li Zan suddenly vomited out cold blood. He felt a pain in his gut. Have Doma's freezing air and ice crystals been absorbed into his body? Li Zan understood instantly. The breath of the moon, the shape of picking up, piercing the face and slashing, Luo Yu. Kokushibu's voice suddenly came. He used his extreme power to slash out 2 giant full moon wheel-shaped sword energy that were swirling and traveling, accompanied by countless full moon blades, trying to crush Li Zan. When Li Zan mentioned the sun sword, he forcibly chopped all the sword energy away. Vampire art crystallized Miko. Doma used the vampire art to directly create 5 petite ice dolls similar in appearance to himself. These ice puppets can fight independently, and can also use Doma's own vampire magic. He and the ice puppet stayed away from Li Zan, and seemed to have planned to give full play to their greatest advantages, launching magic attacks from a distance as a mage, and letting Kokushibo fight as a warrior. Li Zan and Kokushibo exchanged swords several times, while Doma kept firing cold shots in the distance. My stomach hurts so much. He felt that the internal organs in his body were being torn apart and being restored because he was a ghost. Let's kill Doma first. It won't happen if you kill him. Boom. The sound of gold and iron clashing sounded, and Li Zan slashed Kokushibo away with his sword. After all, the power in the body after being transformed into a ghost is much stronger than in the striped human state, and Kokushibo can only compete with himself in the striped human state. Therefore, he can be knocked away with one powerful blow. Vampire art. By Ji of Han Lai. Doma also seemed to know that Li Zan turned his target towards him. He retreated sharply and activated the technique. The main body and the 5 ice puppets condensed 2 giant ice lotuses in the form of girls, for a total of 12 ice lotuses. Call. In an instant, each Baiji ice lotus blew out a large cloud of freezing air. The temperature dropped sharply, and the clouds of freezing air seemed to freeze the entire space. But Li Zan did not stop at all because of the obstruction of the freezing air. With a strong wave of the sun blade in his hand, he brought up gusts of wind and dispersed the freezing air through a gap. To advance, to approach. Doma kept retreating at a high speed, but his speed was not even close to Li Zan's speed, and he was immediately approached by Li Zan. Vampire Art Misty Ice Water Lily Bodhisattva. Suddenly, the freezing air was dispersed, and 6 giant ice bodhisattva statues with hands clasped suddenly appeared, heavily surrounding Li Zan. It turned out that the freezing air blocked his vision, and 5 petite ice dolls had already surrounded Li Zan. The next moment, the arms of the 6 ice bodhisattva statues were released, and with extreme power, they struck down at Li Zan with thunderous force, vowing to crush him into mincemeat. Vampire magic. Fix the evil eye. 6 evil eyes suddenly appeared on Li Zan's neck, staring directly at Doma and the 5 ice dolls. In an instant, Doma and the 5 ice dolls lost their ability to move. Their bodies seemed to be eroded by evil and could not move. Even the palms of the 6 giant ice bodhisattvas stopped in midair. What happened? Doma was a little puzzled, but then he saw that crazy and evil eye and understood instantly. Is it because of this, the other party's vampire technique? Are you going to die? Doma watched helplessly as the Nichiren knife attached itself to his neck and slashed across it. Then his vision gradually improved. He subconsciously tried to regenerate his head, but failed. Forget it, it doesn't matter, if you die, just die. His consciousness gradually disappeared, and his body and head turned into ashes. All the ice dolls and giant ice bodhisattvas collapsed and dissipated following Doma's death. Without obsession and emotion, it was naturally impossible for him to break through the boundaries of ghosts, so he died like this. The winding position of 12 Kazuki is reduced by 1 member. The breath of the moon, the shape of Ju, the descending moon, and the face. The moment Li Zan chopped and killed Doma and was about to hit the ground, multiple criss-crossing blade winds accompanied by countless full moon blades suddenly came, blocking all possible movement trajectories of Li Zan. I can't seem to avoid this move. Li Zan realized, then. Suddenly, Li Zan took out a pot. Vampire magic pot world migration. His body immediately shrank into the pot. As a result, the pot was exposed to all the blade winds and moon blades, and was instantly shattered into pieces. Li Zan's figure disappeared. Kokushibo looked around in confusion, but Li Zan was nowhere to be seen. But the next moment there was a sound of wind, and the wind pressure caused by the swing of the blade came towards Kokushibo from behind. In the back, Kokushibo was surprised, but realized that it would be useless. The Nichiren sword's blade was already approaching and he could no longer dodge. Ah 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 ah! A roar came from Kokushibo's mouth, and many sharp blades suddenly poked out of his body. Sorry, I expected it. The voice coming from Li Zan was obviously a little far away. Obviously, he was not in the area very close to Kokushibo. Kokushibo also felt that the countless blades he poked out with the vampire technique did not hit the flesh. I saw Li Zan standing more than 10 meters away from Kokushibo, with a small pot lying at his feet. He threw it very discreetly under the mist when he was using the breath of mist. More than one was lost. His hands were empty, with only one finger holding a vague silver spider thread. And hanging on the thread was the mottled Nichiren sword that was slashing at Kokushibo's neck. This spider silk is the blood ghost technique signed by Wu Lei of Shishan. This is also the first time to use it. Li Zan had known for a long time that Kokushibo would grow blades from his body, so he did not choose to go and chop directly. Goodbye, Mr. Kokushibo. When the Nichiren sword slashed Kokushibo's neck halfway, Li Zan thought silently. It depends on whether you can break through the limits of ghosts and survive being beheaded by the Nichiren sword. Li Zan was quite looking forward to seeing such a scene. But there was obviously no such chance, the moment before Kokushibo's neck was about to break. Jung. The sound of the pipa that had not been heard for a long time sounded again. Kokushibo's figure suddenly disappeared, and what emerged was a beautiful woman wearing a kimono. Kibutsuji no misfortune. A ferocious smile appeared on his face, and two terrifying arms made of flesh and blood emerged and attacked Li Zan fiercely. A distance of more than 10 meters. Not even a second is needed. But Li Zan suddenly smiled at this moment. Dark mist-like ink escaped from the corners of Li Zan's mouth. Breath of mist. This was the first time Li Zan used the breathing method after turning into a ghost. Li Zan's figure disappeared instantly. Two giant flesh and blood arms suddenly hit the ground, creating a puff of flying smoke. There was a look of horror on Wu Kei's face. In his sight, Li Zan suddenly appeared in midair and grabbed his Sun Lun Dao. The original modeled Sun Lun Dao of uncertain colors turned into black and white. Kill you. The indifferent voice reached Wu Han's ears. Chapter 71. Can't you die like this? Wu Han shouted angrily as the veins on his face swelled. While Li Zan was still in midair, his two giant flesh and blood arms suddenly shrunk into slender whip-like stinging whips carrying ferocious mouthparts, and they were thrown back at unbelievable speed, lashing towards Li Zan. This speed is already much better than Kokushibo. When the corner of his eye turned, Li Zan still had time to think. Full concentration. The black mist escaping from his mouth became even more apparent. The ferocious thorn whip suddenly hit Li Zan's body in midair with extreme power. It's just that body didn't respond to the touch of the thorn whip after being hit. Got some time. Wu Kei suddenly saw that body gradually dissipating like an afterimage left on the screen. Not here. Where is the person? Whoosh. Suddenly, there was a sound of wind pressure coming from behind. Wu Quan didn't even make a move to look back, and 9 red tubes with silver blades at the tips immediately grew from his back. The red tube burst out of his kimono and danced wildly, turning Wu Mei's whole body into a forbidden area of death. Boom! The sound of contact between the silver blade of the tube head and the Nichiren sword was heard. Then several long pipes rushed towards the place of contact, trying to tear Li Zan into pieces. The breath of fog, the shape of Wu, the ring of fog. The arc-shaped black fog formed a blocking shield, and the long tube penetrated into the fog and suddenly lost its direction. Although the color is different, the effect is the same as the previous fog. Wu Kai reacted immediately and still extended the long tube. Since you will lose your way in the fog, change the trajectory and attack after penetrating the fog. In an instant, several long pipes crossed the fog shield and stabbed towards Li Zan. After all, the fog shield composed of the ring fog can only cause the attack to lose its trajectory in the fog, and cannot really block it. This is normal. Vampire technique Kesselao. Many silvery white spider threads suddenly emerged from Li Zan's 5 fingers, approaching the long tube that was stabbed, as if to tie up the long tube. If it is the spider silk released by Wu Lei from the lower string, most of it will be torn directly by the blade wind drawn out by the long tube. But this is the blood ghost technique released by the ghost Li Zan. The strength of the two cannot be generalized at all. Although Li Zan may not be as skilled in using it as tired, the hardness of the spider silk is not at the same level. The extremely hard spider silk is wrapped around the long tube and wrapped into a silver rod. Then Li Zan pressed down with his fingers, and immediately Wu Mei's body was pulled back. Li Zan's body instantly transformed into thunder, strings of black lightning escaped from his mouth, and the sun blade in his hand turned into black gold. He quickly approached Wu Mei at an unimaginable speed, and the moment he got closer, he slashed at Wu Mei's neck. The black gold thunder and lightning entered the body with the blade, and cut off Wu Mei's head in an instant. But at the moment when the head was severed, 8 whip tubes suddenly emerged from Wu Mei's legs, and they were whipped towards various parts of Li Zan's body at a terrifying speed of sound. The sonic boom produced during the whipping even caused the surrounding people to tremble. The earth is cracked and broken into pieces. Expected it. Li Zan's idea flashed. As if he had predicted it in advance, he had already converted the thunder-breathing technique into the mist-breathing technique, and his sword shape was also ready. Breath of mist, type 3 large spray. The ultimate black mist burst out, pushing Li Zan to retreat in a hurry. Although the speed of the pipe whip was much faster than that of Li Zan's retreat, Li Zan still failed to succeed due to his predictable and unhesitating move, allowing Li Zan to jump out of the range of the more than 7-meter-long pipe whip. You can't kill me. I am a perfect immortal creature. Wu Kai's severed head returned to his head in an instant. For him, even beheading with the Nichiren sword has no effect at all. He has already broken through the limits of ghosts, and only direct sunlight can kill him completely. Moreover, he also used superb medical technology to transform his body, allowing his body to accommodate 5 brains and 7 hearts, and move quickly in the body, making it difficult for people to find their locations. These complex organs created gave Wu Kai infinite physical strength with no regeneration limit, and gave him the ability to regenerate almost immortally. The regeneration ability is extremely strong, and it can recover instantly when being attacked, and can easily recover even if the body is cut into pieces. In the face of such a terrifying regeneration ability, perhaps only Jigyu Yuan's He Dao, which has the same lethality as sunlight, and the 13th breath of the sun type that specifically restrains him can have a chance to kill him completely. A perfect immortal creature, Li Zan said with a slight smile, going to bask in the sun. When Wu Kai heard Li Zan's teasing words, his face became more ferocious and terrifying. The long tube trapped in the spider silk broke and a new long tube grew out. In an instant, the 9 sharp red tubes on his upper body and the thorn whips turned into his hands rushed away accompanied by 8 sonic boom tube whips, as if they were going to tear everything apart. Urgent. Li Zan still maintained a smile, his breathing method was running, and he walked through all the long whips with strange steps, like a dancing kocho. And his speed is so fast that he can't even touch the pipe whip that emits sonic boom, and is always avoided before it is about to be whipped. Wu Mei's brows furrowed deeply. The opponent was as difficult to deal with as a loach, and he couldn't attack him at all. Cannot be done. Li Zan, who kept avoiding, thought in his heart. The current speed is probably at full strength. He stared at Wu Kai, his mind spinning. Although both speed and strength are superior to him to a certain extent, they cannot completely crush him and treat him like Yu Wu. Moreover, his regeneration ability is a bit too terrifying. With 5 brains and 7 hearts that move quickly, it is impossible to attack the exact part without any penetration of the world. Even if I try hard enough, I probably can't beat his modified body. After all, my body is just that of an ordinary ghost no matter how good it is. And if I am attacked by him, he will also have a certain impact on me through his cells. There is no He Dao, there is no transparent world, and Breath of the Sun is only entry level, which is troublesome. Why don't you go back and check in some things and come back to play with Wuhan? After all, you have killed so many Shengxian today, which can be considered a good contribution. Suddenly, Li Zan came up with the idea of temporarily retreating. By the way, today's sign in opportunity hasn't been used yet, why don't you go find Wuhan and draw a prize before leaving? The thought has not been extended yet. The next second, all the pipe whips suddenly gathered to surround Li Zan, and then Li Zan avoided the incoming attack in a flash. Zheng. As a pipa sound sounded, Kokushibu's figure suddenly appeared next to Li Zan. He tried his best to use his breathing method and waved the ghost blade in his hand. Breath of the Moon. Li Zan was a little surprised by the sudden appearance of Kokushibo, but in the next moment, Li Zan whipped him away with a whip before the Kokushibo sword could be swung out. The current battle is not on the same level as the previous battle, so why join in the fun? Li Zan couldn't help but feel a little speechless. The ghost transformation without using the breathing method hangs you and beats you. How dare you enter the game even after using the breathing method at full strength? But, I just want to draw a prize with you. It just so happens that you have what I want. Sign in. Sign in successfully. Congratulations on obtaining the transparent world. It is the highest realm that can be reached only after working hard and enduring pain. After entering the transparent world, you can hide your fighting spirit, and your speed of predicting movements and dodging attacks will be greatly increased. You can clearly see the ups and downs of your opponent's lungs and the flow and contraction of blood vessels, see through everything in the opponent's body, and understand the contraction of your own muscles faster and more clearly. Hit the jackpot. The corners of Li Zan's mouth raised into a smile. With the acquisition and opening of the transparent world, Li Zan clearly saw the internal structure of Kibutsuji's body. 5 brains and 7 hearts moving rapidly. It would be better if there is a He Dao. Li Zan's will fell, and the extreme power contained in his body exploded. The veins in the arm holding the Sun-Lun sword burst out, as if endless power poured into the Sun-Lun sword. All of a sudden, the temperature on the surface of the Sun-Lun knife was gradually rising. It was getting hot. The sun-shaped sword that changes color with Li Zan's breathing technique is suddenly covered in bright red light. The color gradually turns red. Gradually, the Nichiren sword transformed into the He sword. It seemed that even the air around the Nichiren sword was distorted by the extreme heat emanating from it. He Dao is also available. Li Zan looked at Wu Mei with a solemn expression and thought to himself. Don't retreat temporarily, just kill him on the spot. Let's try the knife on this guy first. Li Zan turned his attention to Kokushibo, who was rushing towards him. The breath of the moon, Shizi's shape, ferocious changes, the sky is full of slender moon. Seeing the other party looking at him, Kokushibo's heart was alarmed and he wanted to release the powerful sword type he had used. But in the blink of an eye, Kokushibo found that his field of vision was gradually getting higher. Then I saw my headless body. Kokushibo noticed that his head was flying. The neck was cut. Too fast. He didn't even see Li Zan's figure clearly. We can't die like this. We can't fail like this. A strong obsession suddenly sprouted in Kokushibo's heart. I don't want to die. I don't want to. He tried to regenerate his head and tried to break through the limits of ghosts, but for some reason an invisible force hindered him and prevented him from regenerating. Jung. The belated sound of the pipa sounded, transporting Kokushibo's body to another place. But in the end it was to no avail. Gradually, Kokushibo could only slowly die unwillingly and turned into ashes. At this point, all winding strings are destroyed. Are you dead? Li Zan looked at the place where Kokushibo died. He should have broken through the limit just now, but he still died. Is the reason for using He Dao and Sun Breath to kill him? Ding. The Samsara's ghost killing contribution has reached 60%, triggering the Hidden World mission. A world without ghosts. Kill Kibutsuji, the ancestor of ghosts, to end the existence of all evil ghosts and give peace to this world. Task reward. The right to take control of the Demon Slayer world. Then the cold and ruthless mechanical sound suddenly sounded in Li Zan's mind. The voice of the Lord God. Li Zan was a little surprised. The ghost-killing contribution is being calculated all the time. It turns out that reaching a certain level can trigger some hidden world mission. What is resident control? Although Li Zan didn't understand, he felt that this kind of reward for opening up a plot world should be a good thing. Just kill Wuhan, you will know after you kill him. The bright red and hot He Dao bloomed with terrifying temperature, distorting the air, and black mist drifted away from the knife. He is now using the mist breathing method, which is the best breathing method he has mastered. He planned to switch to the sun breathing method when slashing. After all, switching the breathing method at will is also a hidden advantage of Li Zan. The fog suddenly dispersed. The next moment, Li Zan came to Wuhan. Go to hell. Wuhan's pipe whip made a sonic boom again and whipped towards Li Zan. Vampire magic. Fix the evil eye. An evil eye suddenly appeared on Li Zan's neck. Wu Mei's movements suddenly stopped, and the pause lasted only for a moment. But this moment, before the duel between two parties with certain differences in strength, seems particularly important. The breath of the sun, the shape of three, the red mirror of the scorching sun. A faint hint of black burning fire replaced the black mist and bloomed on the blade. A crimson arc-shaped horizontal slash quietly landed on Wu Mei's neck. The moment Wuhan's head was severed, Li Zan did not stop swinging the knife. In an instant, the moving important organs were captured through the transparent world, and they were slashed down one after another. Ah! Shouting cry screams trembling with fear. The burning pain associated with He Dao and Sun's breath kept ravaging his spirit. This familiar pain appeared together with the figure of the man who was extremely afraid of him deepest in his memory. Following the fate of the country. The breath of the sun. That was the man who truly terrified him of death. And now, the successor of Sunbreath also makes him feel the same feeling. For a moment, Wu Kai had the idea of escape. Leave, want to leave. Be alive, dead winding and nothing else matter. Living is everything. I am immortal, I cannot die. Kibutsuji's will to live without suffering has once again reached its peak. However, although Li Zan used the breath of the sun, the sword was also the He Dao, and the world-penetrating realm was also opened, the three of them did not reach the level of Jiguyueni after all, and they could not use the breath of the sun type 13. Even if Li Zan knew that the 13th sun breathing technique was the continuation of the previous 12 types, it would be the same. If he couldn't use it, he simply couldn't use it. The entry-level sun breathing technique was not enough to support him in using the 13th type. Nowadays, the use of Breath of the Sun only focuses on its ability to prevent ghosts from regenerating. Therefore, although Li Zan's slashing caused Wushan to feel pain, reduced his regeneration and recovery ability, and reduced his physical strength, it would still take a long period of time to continuously destroy all of his regenerated important organs and neck before he could be completely killed. The next moment, Wu Mei's body suddenly exploded like a self-destruction, breaking into countless flesh and blood fragments and rushing to all directions. This is his most powerful life-saving skill. It explodes his body into 1,800 pieces of flesh and blood like a self-destruction. As long as a piece of flesh and blood escapes, he can recover with his powerful regeneration ability. He also escaped in the same way in front of Jigyu Enichi hundreds of years ago. Even the extremely powerful Jigyu Yueni could only slash and destroy more than 1,500 pieces of flesh and blood in an instant. It's just. How could Li Zan, who was familiar with the plot and knew all the information about Kibutsuji, not know the skills that the opponent would use when he was in trouble? He had already been prepared. With the spread of his 5 fingers, the silver-white spider silk that seemed to have been spread all over the place gathered overwhelmingly at a speed much faster than the explosion of flesh and blood, wrapping Li Zan and Kibutsuji into a silver-white ball in an instant. Leave no gaps. 1,800 pieces of meat were smashed on the intertwined spider silk, and not a single piece could escape. Li Zan swung the knife like a machine, destroying pieces of flesh and blood with burning flames. After Kibutsuji realized that his escape had failed, he immediately gathered the minced meat and returned to human form. It is no longer a female form, but a male form that I have seen before. Seeing that there was no more minced meat to chop, Li Zan then used the transparent world to capture the location of the organs and continued to chop them. Wu Han's face was frantic, and an extremely powerful wide-area shock wave suddenly aroused from his whole body. Li Zan frowned slightly, and the silver ball wrapped in spider silk immediately dissipated, forming a stream of silver and blocking Li Zan's face. No, not strong enough. He felt that the spider threads touched by the impact were dying violently. The next moment, blood extended from Li Zan's fingers and poured into the spider silk, dyeing all the spider silk red, making the spider silk's strength increase dramatically. Finally, he could barely withstand the terrifying shock wave caused by Wu Kai. Zheng. It seemed that Wu Kai had given the order, and the sound of Naru's pipa sounded again. Muzan appeared directly next to Naru Nu. Go, he shouted almost frantically. Just when Naru put her fingers on the pipa to play again, a crimson Nichiren sword, accompanied by fierce fire, penetrated directly through her neck and broke her head in the air. Wu Han was so stunned. Boom! The supporter of Infinite City died, and immediately, the entire Infinite City building began to collapse, and the space began to twist, making a deafening sound. Wu Mei and Li Zan lost their balance at the same time, losing their support and falling down. Boom! An object suddenly crashed onto the crumbling building not far from Wu Han. Wu Shan couldn't help but look carefully and found that it was a pot. The next moment, Li Zan's figure suddenly emerged from the mouth of the pot. Seeing Li Zan, the blood vessels on Wu Shan's face were about to swell and burst, looking extremely ferocious. Your knife is gone. Let me see how you want to kill me. He roared angrily, and the pipe whip on his body shot out again. Who said that? Li Zan smiled with a smile on his face and moved his fingers. A silver silk thread was quickly retracted, and the Sun Lune knife was tied back to Li Zan's hand. The violent power was transmitted to the Nichiren sword through the arm, and the Nichiren sword's temperature rose again, twisting the air, glowing red, and steaming. He was in midair, using the fallen building fragments as pedals, using his breathing method to move back and forth in the air, avoiding the dozens of whips coming from Wuhan, which were approaching him at extremely high speeds. The breath of the sun, the shape of one, the round dance. The arc-shaped slash entwined with flames swung violently on Wu Mei's neck, instantly cutting off his head. Then, in midair, Li Zan was like a madman, slashing with his sword one after another. His eyes kept swaying, constantly capturing the location of Wuhan's important organs for regeneration through the transparent world, and kept slashing. Everything seems to disappear, all senses seem to be blocked, and the only thing left in the world is slashing without mercy. When I felt the touch of the ground, I didn't know how much time had passed. Li Zan stepped on the soft dense forest soil and stopped slashing with the sun blade. Because the Wuhan in front of him was already dying. Not only were none of the 5 brains and 7 hearts left in the body, but even most of the internal organs and more useful organ bones were cut off by Li Zan, leaving only a little bit of ghost power hanging on to his life. And Li Zan's hands were already sore and numb, most of his physical strength was exhausted, and he didn't have much strength left. At this time, the most I can do is fight with a pillar. End of ghost transformation. He ended his ghost state and returned to his human form. The tragic Wuhan fell onto the mud, covered with dirt. Why? He tried his best to open his mouth and yelled with hatred and madness, "Why do you ghost hunters do this? Why do you have to put me to death? You have been chasing me for thousands of years. Because of boring reasons such as revenge and cannibalism. Can't it be regarded as a life taken by a natural disaster? Why? Why can't you die obediently? Let me become the most perfect creature. Why ah?" Wu Kei seemed to be mentally disturbed at the moment, and what he said made Li Zan feel a little baffled. "I'm not here to kill you because of revenge or because you eat people. Nor is it because you want to eat me and become a perfect creature, so I resist this reason." Li Zan knelt down and looked down at the miserable figure in the mud. His indifferent eyes showed an indifferent emotion. "I just thought it would be more fun to kill you, so I did it. There is no other reason." As soon as he finished speaking, he waved the sun blade in his hand, and Wu Shan's newly grown mouth was gouged out again and fell into the soil. "Would you like to go and bask in the sun? It's not miserable." Li Zan looked at the ground outside the dense forest, which was not covered by the big trees and was illuminated by the blazing sun, and said with a smile. Wu Mei in the mud had no way to answer, but his trembling body had revealed his emotions. "I want to go to the Mugen train. My lord." Purgatory Anjiro, with his body wrapped in bandages, was sitting in front of Uyashiki Kagaya, bowing his head and requesting. "Mr. Purgatory, you should take a good rest now." Kocho Shinobu, who was also sitting next to him, reminded him. "No need, I'm in good condition now." Purgatory Xingjulong responded energetically. After waking up and learning everything, he immediately came to the Lord's mansion and asked to go to the place where the infinite train stopped to check. Li Zan was captured. He believed that he had a big responsibility. The other party was kidnapped for rescuing him. "Let's go." He feels so bad that he can't just ignore it. Anjiro, Gyu and Sania have all rushed there. If anything happens, they will send news back. Uyashiki persuaded gently, "You should take good care of yourself now." "But, my lord," Xingjulong obviously didn't want to give up. Anjiro, Kagaya Uyashiki's voice became extremely heavy. "I am also very worried about Li Zan's situation now, because he is related to many things in the Demon Slayer Corps, but what we need to do now is to wait and be calm. Don't be reckless. You are the flame pillar of the Demon Slayer Corps. You have already seen the strength of Shangxian, it is extremely powerful. So what you should do now is to practice well and restore your combat power before the enemy attacks. Do you understand?" Xingjuro, quote. "Yes, my lord." Seeing his lord like this, Purgatory Xingjuro had no choice but to give up. Suddenly, a crow flew from outside the door and brought a message with a harsh voice. "Demon Slayer Corps member Li Zan is still alive. Still alive." Hearing these words, Kocho Shinobu and Anjiro immediately stood up, and Uyashiki Kagaya also looked surprised. The Lord's mansion. In the courtyard at night. The pillars gathered. Purgatory Anjiro, Kocho Shinobu, Mingyu Xingmei, and other pillars were all present. Even Tanjiro dragged his injured body and Nezuko over with Kocho Shinobu. Ubuyashiki Kagaya was resting and waiting in the mansion. Not long ago, there was news that Li Zan was coming back. After the collapse of Infinite City, the place where Li Zan and Wu Kai appeared was not the location of the Infinity Train, so they needed to rush back to the headquarters from somewhere else. Such a battle is not only because of Li Zan's safety, but also because if the other party escapes from the clutches of ghosts, it will definitely bring a lot of ghost-related information. "Why haven't you come back yet?" Tanjiro looked at the dim night, a little worried. Since there is news, it means that there is no problem with the person. Kocho Shinobu comforted, "Just wait a little longer, Tanjiro." "Yeah." Nezuko nodded and nuzzled her brother. "Nezuko." Tanjiro touched Nezuko's head and continued to wait patiently. Another period of time passed, but Li Zan still did not appear. The night was getting darker and darker, and there seemed to be only the candlelight emanating from the courtyard. Oh, he can't be dead, right? Yihei Xiaoban said indifferently, leaning against the big tree. What did you say? Tanjiro shouted at him, even Zhu can't talk nonsense. He doesn't know who his superior is or what he is, and he will express his feelings directly when he encounters bad behavior. You kid. Iguro Kobanai was a little dissatisfied with the disrespect of the subordinates towards Zhu, and stood up straight to do something. Mr. Iguro. Kocho Shinobu stood in front of Tanjiro, staring at Iguro Kobanai with cold eyes, and slightly cold words came from his cherry-colored lips. Can you please stop making sarcastic remarks? Kocho. Yihei didn't expect that Kocho Shinobu would come forward for this. He stopped and shook his fingers and said, Lizan is a ghost, a ghost. It's not good to be too trusting. I have my own judgment on whether it's good or not. Kocho Shinobu responded expressionlessly, if he had malicious intentions, I would not survive. Kocho is right. He also saved me. He saved all the passengers on the Mugen train. Inferno Anjiro said to Igyu with a full face even though his hands were in plaster and his body was wrapped in bandages. Oh, who knows what his purpose is? Ihei Xiaoban argued. No one else here except you has any trust in him. He looked at Shinazugawa. In his opinion, Shinazugawa has zero tolerance for ghosts. Moreover, on the day of the Hashira meeting, Shinazugawa also had a violent conflict with Lizan. Those who were unhappy with Lizan should support him. But Yihei didn't expect that under his sight, the other party turned his head and avoided his sight without saying a word. When did Shinazugawa change his attitude? He didn't understand. He looked at Mingming Island Xingming again, and saw the other person clasping his hands together, with tears streaming down his face, and said, Namo Amitabha. Look at Yusui Tengen again. Yushu Tengen held his chin with one hand, raised his head proudly, and said with praise, I have to say, what he did is really gorgeous. Look at Tokuduru Muichiro again. However, Muichiro was staring blankly at the candlelight. Then look at Tomioka Giyu. Okay, no need to look. This guy Tomioka Giyu is the opposite. Before he finally turned his attention to Kanroji Mitsuri, the girl's sweet voice came, Mr. Iguro, it's wrong for you to talk like that. Even the girl he liked said this, and suddenly, Ihei Xiaoban's body felt like it was struck by lightning. Among the original 9 pillars, was he alone in the anti-Lizan camp? What exactly is going on? Where was the spirit of common hatred when the trial was held? Obanai. Kagaya's voice sounded, and everyone saw him walking out of the main room with the support of his wife. Greetings to your lord. Everyone immediately knelt down on one knee. Uyashiki Kagaya nodded slightly, and then continued to say to Iguro, don't embarrass others too much. Yes, my lord. Facing the lord's scolding, Ihei Xiaoban could only bow his head and respond obediently. Ubuyashiki Kagaya responded, haven't arrived yet. Then, a trace of worry appeared in his heart. I am worried that Lizan has not arrived yet. The next moment, the candlelight in the courtyard suddenly flickered. In the blink of an eye, a figure suddenly appeared in the courtyard. Lizan. Tanjiro immediately smelled Lizan and shouted in surprise. Everyone looked at the slightly handsome man with loose robes and 2 pots hanging on his waist who appeared in the courtyard. Long time no see, Tanjiro. Lizan responded with a smile. Lizan. Xingshou Lang stepped forward and said brightly, is everything okay? It's okay. Lizan replied. Mr. Lizan, it's great that there is no problem. Kocho Shinobu showed a gentle smile, showing her happy mood. Lizan glanced at her and felt that her smile had become less stiff. Did you gradually figure it out while you were on a mission with Mi-Do-Z? Then Lizan nodded to her in response. I heard someone saying bad things about me when I was far away. Lizan suddenly looked at Yihei Xiaoban. Yihei shook his head directly. Lizan didn't care too much, after all, he had just thrown him up a tree last time. Of course, if there is a chance in the future, I may continue to do this. Of course it can't be because he said bad things about me. Lizan is not a grudge-bearing person. I hope you're back safely. Uyashiki said gently, with a smile on his lips. Then, he asked, did anything happen on the way back? Well, it's a trivial matter. Lizan looked at Kagaya Uyashiki and said thoughtfully. A little incident did happen on the way back with Wu Mei. That is, he met an Miaoyi who turned into a ghost. Li Zan originally thought that she was dead a long time ago. After all, when Wu Kai ordered the ghosts to come up, she was still playing with her head. Can you bear this misery? Li Zan felt that with Wu Shan's extremely self-centered character, he would kill the disobedient and Miaoyi directly. Unexpectedly, this guy actually survived. When I met Li Zan on the way, I wanted to pick off Li Zan's head. No, there is a pot around her waist just for her. Li Zan didn't want to kill her. After all, he had introduced many things about the Lord God space to him, so he took them back to see if he could rescue her. Otherwise, just leave it to Luo Yaya and let her make the decision. Yes, Ubuyashiki nodded and continued to ask, then can you tell us what happened to you after you were transferred by the vampire technique? As soon as Ubuyashiki asked this question, everyone present raised their ears high, and they were all very curious about what he encountered after being passed on by the vampire technique, and how he escaped. How should I say? Under the gaze of everyone, Li Zan spoke slowly. Hey, Shinazugawa, who was a little impatient, couldn't help shouting when he saw Li Zan looking like he was trying to sell his stuff. But it wasn't that Li Zan wanted to sell it off, he just felt that what he said might be a bit unbelievable. You may not believe what I say. Say it, Li Zan, we believe you. Ubuyashiki smiled gently. I met Kibutsuji Wuzan and all the ghosts, and then killed all the ghosts and captured Kibutsuji alive. Li Zan's plain words echoed in the courtyard illuminated by candlelight. He looked at the dull, shocked and disbelieving faces and remained silent. So you can't believe it? Are you kidding? Li Zan, even though Kagaya was as calm as Uyashiki Kagaya, after hearing Li Zan's words, it was obvious that he couldn't hold back, and the gentle smile on his face seemed he was a little stiff, and his gentle words also had a slight tremor. No, Li Zan responded calmly, with nothing out of the ordinary. Don't make such tacky jokes. Yusui Tengen shouted to Li Zan. It's not a joke. It's not funny, Tokido Muichiro said emotionlessly as he stared at Li Zan. No kidding, Li Zan, I think it's better to be more serious. Purgatory Xingjulong said loudly. Very serious, Mr. Li Zan, you always say inappropriate things. Kocho Shinobu said with the corner of his mouth twitching. I told the truth. There must be a limit to arrogance. Shinazugawa looked angry. Not arrogant, Namo Amitabha, has the evil ghost part still invaded you? But poor child, Mingyu Xingming clasped his hands together again, and shed 2 lines of clear tears again. You shed so many tears. Li Zan looked at his face and cursed in his heart. It has never been invaded. How is that possible? What nonsense are you talking about? I won't trust you, I won't trust you. Ai-hei Xiaoban's eyes were sharp and she spoke distrustful words. Oh, your family, Mr. Li Zan, this kind of thing is incredible, how is it possible? Even Kanroji Mitsuri straightened his body and said to Li Zan. But it's true, Mr. Gyu, it's useless for you to look at me like this. I really didn't lie, Li Zan said to Tomioka Gyu, who had been staring at him seriously, and Tanjiro and Miduzi, don't look at me very worriedly. There's really nothing wrong with my brain. So you will find it hard to believe it. Seeing everyone's reaction, Li Zan waved his hand helplessly. It's not that we don't believe you, it's just. Kocho Shinobu said hesitantly. It's so incredible, it looks like a tacky joke at first glance. It's not gorgeous at all. Yusu Tengen continued. Li Zan, your brain has been shattered too many times in the battles with ghosts. Purgatory Xingjulong said worriedly. What you said sounds too unpleasant. Are you treating your savior like this? Li Zan glanced at him and thought to himself. Oh, he must have been hit by a vampire spell, and his mind is not normal. Ai-hei Xiaobanai said gloomily. I won't even hit you. Your family, Li Zan. Ubuyashiki Kagaya spoke again, and the others fell silent immediately to avoid hindering the Lord's questioning. Are you really kidding? He repeated his question. No, Li Zan's answer was still so firm. Quote. Under Li Zan's firm answer, Kagaya also began to waver out of her trust in Li Zan. But it was just a little shaken. Deep down, like everyone else, he didn't believe that such a ridiculous thing could happen. This is true. The front foot was still wary of Kibutsuji Wuhan during the Hashira meeting. He was afraid of the powerful strength of Kibutsuji and his subordinate 12 Kazuki, so he made an oath to make determination and strengthen his strength. Just say on the back foot that you are going to hit the string with explosive kills, and there will be no misfortune in the beating. It's only been a few months. It's only been a few months. A few months later, you came directly to us and told us that you had cleared the level directly. Who can believe what you say? This is no longer simply outrageous, but simply outrageous. Who dares to believe it? However, Uyashiki Kagaya still asked Lizan very calmly, what about the Kibutsuji you captured alive? Here it is. Lizan pointed to a pot on his waist. I put it into the pot using the vampire technique. How is he doing now? Uyashiki continued. It's very bad. In order to prevent him from getting angry and hurting others, he only has a trace of ghost power to hang on to his life. Lizan said leisurely. Can we release him? Then are you ready? Lizan asked. Always be prepared. An unknown smile appeared on Uyashiki's scarred face. Ghost transformation. Vampire magic. Another world in a pot. End of ghost transformation. The strong ominous atmosphere came and went away just as quickly. Everyone in the courtyard only felt discomfort for a moment, and then they discovered that a deformed and tragic figure suddenly appeared in the courtyard. He lay limp on the ground like mud. His body was covered with huge scars that were obviously caused by knives. Most of his skin seemed to have been burned, looking a little red and charred. Ah, yes, it seems like those who are locked in a pot will be burned. Lizan suddenly remembered something important. He has not been killed yet. Originally, he only had a little bit of ghost power left to hang his life, although now he looks even more dying. Well, his vitality is tenacious, worthy of praise. Lizan thought to himself as he looked at Wu Kei's appearance at this moment. Although it may seem a bit hard to believe, Lizan looked at the mud on the ground and said, but this is that guy Kibutsuji. Mr. Lizan, don't think of us as fools. Kanroji Mitsuri said, you said a few months ago that you couldn't beat Kibutsuji at all, so why did Kibutsuji become like this? All the pillars present have seen Wu Kei's human male form. Wu Kei's body slumped on the ground as indeed in human male form, but it has been chopped by Lizan to the point where he is completely unrecognizable, so it is impossible to judge from his appearance. Just as Lizan was about to speak in response, he heard Tanjiro's angry roar. Kibutsuji no misfortune. He smelled the scent of Kibutsuji that was deeply engraved into his soul, and the tragedy at home, his dead family members, his sister who turned into a ghost, innocent passers-by in Asakusa, Kyoto, and countless ghosts and people who suffered because of Kibutsuji's misfortune came to mind. For a moment, there seemed to be endless anger welling up in his heart. Calm down, Tanjiro. Lizan looked at Tanjiro calmly and said. Miduzi on the side was a little scared when he saw his brother's eyes were red, and pulled his sleeves. Lizan, Miduzi. Under the persuasion of his good friends and sister, Tanjiro gradually regained his senses and just looked at Kibutsuji with pure resentment. Kibutsuji's miserable appearance at this time did not arouse the slightest pity in Tanjiro's heart. Because he knows how selfish and unreasonable Kibutsuji is. He is a kind person who sympathizes with other ghosts for various reasons, but Kibutsuji is the only one who cannot arouse any sympathy or pity from him. Kibutsuji is the source of evil. He is the source of evil that has harmed countless innocent humans for his own selfish desires. He is an absolute evil spirit who tramples on the lives of others at will. After hearing Tanjiro's angry words, Ubuyashiki finally fully believed Lizan's words. Tanjiro has personally come into contact with Wumei, and because of his sensitive sense of smell, he also knows the aura on Wumei's body, and will most likely not admit his mistake. Lizan's firm words and Tanjiro's reaction made him put aside his doubts. Although I still have many doubts, let's ask again later. Ubuyashiki Kagaya asked his wife who was supporting him, Amane, what is Kibutsuji's current state? The whole body is covered with wounds, and most of the organs were removed but not recovered. They are covered in mud and slumped on the ground, looking like they are on the verge of death. Amane told her husband's ear. Ha ha ha, ha 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 ha. Ubuyashiki Kagaya looked very happy at the moment, feeling extremely comfortable and laughing loudly. Everyone was silent, and the only thing left in the courtyard was Uyashiki Kagaya's loud laughter. Smiling, tears seemed to ooze from the corners of his eyes. At the same time, it also affected his condition, causing him to change from laughing to violent coughing. My lord, There were many worried cries. Kocho Shinobu directly approached Uyashiki Kagaya, wanting to find out the status of his lord. But Ubuyashiki raised his hand halfway, indicating that there was no need to worry, suppressed his coughing, and stopped laughing. Take him back, Lizan, Kagaya said. Ghost transformation. Vampire art. Another world in a pot. End of ghost transformation. The same ominous atmosphere flashed through. Kibutsuji's figure disappeared. Lizan. Kagaya suddenly called Lizan. Huh. Lizan looked at Kagaya Uyashiki quietly. I saw Uyashiki Kagaya and his wife slowly sitting upright, then bending over, pressing their palms on the floor, and lowering their heads. They presented the highest tribute to Lizan, the tuxia seat. My lord. Jonju was very surprised. Please raise your head. Lizan stood upright without changing his body, and his flat eyes fell on the Uyashiki couple. Thank you very much for ending the curse of the Ubuyashiki family for thousands of years, ending the fate of the Demon Slayer Corps, no longer causing innocent people to suffer from evil spirits, and allowing all the swordsmen of the Demon Slayer Corps to rest in peace. Uyashiki did not move due to Lizan's words, but instead spoke out words of thanks heavily. Vaguely, Lizan seemed to see countless swordsmen wearing Demon Slayer Corps uniforms standing behind Uyashiki Kagaya. You're welcome. Lizan smiled. Thank you. All the Zu who were kneeling on one knee bowed their heads to Lizan, even Yihei Shaobanai, who was most unhappy with Lizan. That's almost it. Lizan's smile faded and he looked serious. Okay. With Amane's help, Kagaya stood up again with some difficulty. My lord, your physical condition is getting worse day by day. Lizan said to him. I know. Ubuyashiki Kagaya smiled. It's enough that my mission has been completed. Everything else doesn't matter. Live as long as you can. After all, you have so many people who care about you. Lizan glanced back and forth at Jonju. Ubuyashiki Kagaya also saw everyone looking at her with concern, and a gentle smile appeared on her face. Then I will live for a long time. Then you have to work harder, my lord. By the way, Lizan, can you tell us what happened specifically? Immediately afterwards, Lizan told them everything that happened in as much detail as possible, showing them the three-piece set of stripes, Hidao, and the transparent world, and even played with the breathing techniques he had mastered, including the breath of the sun. After a moment, he showed his absolute strength and attributed all the improvement in strength to his excellent talent. That's right, all the abnormalities can be explained by, I am special, I am genius, and, I am awesome. This is the case with Lizan. 2 days later, Ubuyashiki Kagaya summoned all Demon Slayer Corps members, including former pillars, staff from the sword forging village, trainers, and logistics personnel. Then let Lizan release Wuhan. Let everyone write down their hatred, sorrow, and hatred on paper and put it together on Wushan's body. Finally, under the scorching sun at noon, Lizan took out the sun wheel knife and used the breath of the sun to drive the burning flames to burn Wume and all the papers into ashes. It means that everything in the past will disappear with Wuhan's death. You can remember it, but don't be immersed in it anymore, so as to start a new life of your own. Ghost killing contribution reaches 100%. Hidden world mission, a world without ghosts, completed. Congratulations on gaining residence control over the world of Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yaiba. Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yaiba's resident control. The Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yaiba world will no longer be used as a plot world, and will become the exclusive residence of the reincarnation, Lizan. Reward points can be spent to bring out the plot characters in the Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yaiba world. Can only move within the space of the main god, and as a vassal of the reincarnation will die together when he dies. The time node will no longer change, and reincarnators can freely choose to freeze or flow the time of this world. The cold mechanical voice of the Lord God emerged. Kibutsuji's tragic death also means the completion of Lizan's mission to hide the world. It means that he has completely opened up the world of Demon Slayer. Are you leaving? Kocho Shinobu looked at Lizan and said. Yeah, Lizan responded. The news that he is leaving for an unknown place and may not come back has been passed on for a long time, and he has also been in contact with people such as Nintaki Sakanji, Tomioka Gyu, Tanjiro, Yadozi, Tamayo, Yushiro, Inosuke, etc. After saying goodbye, Although I was basically reluctant to say goodbye, there was nothing I could do with Li Zan's determination. After being transformed into a ghost, and Miaoyi was handed over to Luo Yaya. Luo Yaya no longer stayed in this world and took Miaoyi back to the main god space. Thank you for helping me get revenge. Kocho Shinobu thanked Li Zan. Died in the hands of Li Zan, and the other party helped her realize her wish for revenge, which made her very grateful. And he also completed the mission of the Demon Slayer Corps. No more innocent people will suffer from evil spirits. Live a good life, Li Zan said to her calmly. Now that the Demon Slayer Corps has been disbanded, they no longer need to serve as demon-killing swordsmen, and will live the rest of their lives with the financial support of the Ubuyashiki family. I won't be angry anymore, Li Zan. Before Li Zan turned around, Kocho Shinobu said to him, showing an undisguised happy smile. This is Kocho Shinobu's own, the most heartfelt smile. That's good. Li Zan smiled at her. He turned around and thought silently in his mind. Return. Li Zan's figure suddenly turned into white light and disappeared. Looking at Li Zan's disappearing figure, Kocho Shinobu's smile froze, his heart suddenly tightened, his handsome brows furrowed, and he placed his hands on his chest. The cherry-colored lips moved, opening and closing slightly. So can you please not leave? This sentence was never uttered. White light flashed. When he came back to his senses, Li Zan had returned to the main god space that he had not seen for a long time. Luo Yaya and Miaoyi also appeared. Although the three people returned at different times, they all arrived at the main god space at the same moment. So it doesn't matter if you wait until the last second on a time-limited mission. There is actually more than a year left before the deadline for Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yaiba's world mission. Li Zan can rely on this year to continue to sign in everything he can. But he didn't want to. It's that simple a reason. He follows the principles of fun and willingness to do things. The previous sign in to become stronger was just because he needed the strength to go out of his way to contact others to sign in. After reaching a certain limit, his enthusiasm suddenly dropped. After all, if I sign in a higher level world next time, it might be worth the extra year I spent in Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yaiba's world. Moreover, the world of Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yaiba has also become its own residence. You can go back at any time to sign in the remaining people and things that have not been signed in. There is no rush. Settlement. The cold mechanical sound of the Lord God resounded. A series of information emerged. The main mission has been completed, and 1,000 reincarnation points have been obtained. The completion contribution of the side mission, Evil Ghost Hunting, reaches 100%. Killed a total of 207 evil spirits, including 6 upper string ghosts and 1 lower string ghost, and killed Kibutsuji, the ancestor of ghosts. A total of 104,000 reincarnation points were obtained. S-level plot reward X1, A-level plot reward X10, B-level plot reward X1, C-level plot reward X1. That's a lot, Li Zan thought when he saw these rewards. After all, the newcomer only has 500 reincarnation points at the beginning. The reincarnation brings out a Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yaiba World Nichiren Sword. Do you want to pay the carrying fee of 4,000 reincarnation points? Yes. Complete the Hidden World mission, a world without ghosts, and obtain Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yaiba World Station Control. Reincarnation. Please choose whether the time in Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yaiba World flows according to reality or freezes. Flow with reality. Are you bringing out plot characters from the world of Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yaiba? No. The next opening time of the plot world will be 30 days later. This plot world mission will be a camp confrontation mission. Please take reincarnation seriously. Seeing this message, Li Zan pondered slightly. Is there a camp confrontation? He had expected this from the time the name, Jongjo 4th Team, appeared, otherwise the Lord God would not have made such a clear distinction. It doesn't matter, just fight. By the way, how should we look at what the next mission world is? He tried to ask the Lord God, but got no response. Ah yes, it seems to be the exclusive authority of the captain. So now that the captain is cold, what should we do? Just ask a veteran. Li Zan turned his attention to the 2 seniors. Then he discovered that Miaoyi seemed to have regained her consciousness under the Lord God's treatment, and all the scars and strange places on her body were restored to their original state. By the way, the scary head hanging on her waist had long been lost by Luo Yaya. And Miaoyi's eyes gradually returned to clarity, and she looked a little dazed looking at the tearful Luo Yaya in front of her. Miaoyi. Seeing and Miaoyi recover, Luo Yaya rushed forward and hugged her. The girl's face was full of tears, sad and happy at the same time. Yaya. And Miaoyi also hugged her. Captain is dead. Lu Ji, brother Li is also dead. Woo woo woo. Luo Yaya couldn't restrain her emotions and cried bitterly in Miaoyi's arms. I thought it was a simple plot world mission to bring newcomers, but I didn't expect that 3 of the 5 seniors lost their lives. This made her feel a little hard to accept, especially when she encountered the monster and felt helpless in front of it. It was the Captain Lu Zili and the other 3 who risked their lives to give themselves the chance to escape using the one-time prop, phase teleportation. Luo Yaya's heart was in great pain, and under the Lord God's treatment, the shadow of Wu Mei was reduced. And Miaoyi touched Luo Yaya's head sympathetically, with a similarly sad look on her face. Unlike Luo Yaya, she did not meet Wu Mei but Hantangu. After being defeated by Hantangu, she was brought to Wu Mei and turned into a ghost because of Wu Mei's interest. After cuddling with each other for a while, they noticed Li Zan's gaze and stopped. Luo Yaya stood behind and Miaoyi, and both of them looked at Li Zan with complicated expressions. Thank you. And Miaoyi said first. After waking up, the memories of becoming a ghost were clearly engraved in my mind. He also knew that the newcomer in front of him, whom he had just started teasing, was his savior, and he also knew the terrifying fighting power of the other party. The old man ghost who made him completely unable to resist was instantly killed in front of him, and ghosts much stronger than the old man ghost were also killed by him. The strength of the newcomer in front of him was simply terrifying. You have to thank the guy who turned you into a ghost for not killing you. Regarding and Miaoyi's thanks, Li Zan acted very calmly. What he wanted to know more was why Wu Mei didn't kill her. My preference for redemption is to be a necromancer, maybe that's the reason. And Miaoyi directly revealed her ability without hiding it at all. Oh, Li Zan responded. It was true that Wu Han would be curious about this ability. I think I got a blessing in disguise this time. And Miaoyi smiled self-deprecatingly. Her current race is a ghost, and by using reincarnation points and adjusting and optimizing it through the Lord God, some of the drawbacks of ghosts have been eliminated, such as cannibalism, losing sanity, and being afraid of the sun. Therefore, in this plot world, she has enhanced her strength without doing anything. Even the ones she killed after turning into a ghost were attributed to her, and she got a lot of reincarnation points and several B-level plot rewards in vain. Congratulations then, Li Zan said perfunctorily, and then asked, I want to know what the next plot world is and what should I do? You can know after 15 days depending on the captain's authority. And Miaoyi said. But the captain is dead. Li Zan looked at her indifferently. After the captain dies, the team can recommend someone to become the captain. And Miaoyi explained, and then she said with some hesitation, if you want to be the captain, neither Yaya nor I will have any objections. In Miaoyi's view, although Li Zan is a newcomer, his strength is undoubtedly strong. The captain of the 4th team in Zhongzhou is more than qualified. And under the leadership of a strong captain, the risk of future missions will definitely be much less. Not interested. Li Zan shook his head. He has no interest in leading others at all. If possible, he even feels that it is not bad to be a lone traveler. Just take it and tell me what the plot world is. Okay. And Miaoyi could only nod. Then the cold mechanical voice of the Lord God sounded in his heart. The reincarnator, and Miaoyi, applied to become the captain of the 4th team in Zhongzhou. Do you agree? Agree. The reincarnator, and Miaoyi, has become the captain of the 4th team in Zhongzhou. What will happen to the real world? Li Zan asked the next moment. Just recite it silently in your mind, and you will appear near the place where you came to the main God space. Ah, Li Zan suddenly realized that he was not from the same world as them. When you return to the real world, you don't know which world you are returning to. If it is not your original world, then where should you appear? Let's try it later. When you return to the real world, someone from the Reincarnation Administration should come to talk to you. If possible, I suggest you not to conflict with them, otherwise there will be some trouble. And Miaoyi suggested Road. Reincarnation Management Bureau. Li Zan asked doubtfully. An organization that specializes in managing reincarnations, restricting reincarnations from doing whatever they want in the real world, and maintaining social stability. And Miaoyi explained patiently. Is there an agency to manage reincarnators? There should indeed be one. Otherwise, reality will be in chaos. Can you control it? Li Zan asked. After all, the destructive power that some extremely powerful reincarnations can cause is obviously unimaginable. Judging from Li Zan's current strength, with all his strength, several buildings would be violently hacked away by him in an instant. Even if there are stronger reincarnations behind the Reincarnation Management Bureau, it cannot always pay attention to and stop the actions of other reincarnations in time. Reincarnators will be restricted by the Lord God when they enter the real world. Behaviors that cause significant damage to the real world will be deducted from reincarnation points. The Reincarnation Management Bureau is an institution to further maintain stability. Then they will know exactly where I am when I go back. There are special detectors in each area. When the breath of life disappears or suddenly appears, there will be a reminder, and they will come to the door based on this. Is this so? Li Zan thought. He is not a sociopath, so these things are actually quite indifferent to him. By the way, I have a lot of information to tell you about the Lord God's space. And Miaoyi continued. Li Zan is now an official member of the 4th team in Zhongzhou, so and Miaoyi will also tell all the information that was not disclosed before. Say it. Li Zan was not in a hurry. You should have seen the reminder from the Lord God. The next plot mission in the world is a camp confrontation mission. Yeah, Li Zan nodded slightly. The plot world is actually divided into 4 types. And Miaoyi raised 4 fingers and pressed the first one with the other hand. The first is an ordinary plot world, participated by the team of the Reincarnator, just like the plot world we just experienced. She pressed a second finger. The second is the plot world of Camp versus Camp, which is the plot world we are going to experience next. In this world, most teams will participate, divided into multiple camps to perform tasks with certain conflicts, and kill the reincarnators of the opposing camp. There will even be rewards for the most serious type of fighting. Press the third finger. The third is a restricted world. In this type of plot world, the participants are uncertain. Sometimes it will be one team, sometimes it will be multiple teams. Everyone will be restricted by the Lord God and become an ordinary person, but this kind of world will probably not be dangerous. Even those who died due to conflicts between reincarnations or natural and man-made disasters in the world will be resurrected for free in the Lord God's space. So this kind of world is basically a place where reincarnation points are earned or lost. Quote. The 4th finger. The last one is the punishment world. This kind of world is roughly the same as the restricted mission. You will become an ordinary person. However, the punishment world will be life-threatening, and people will not be resurrected. The reason why it is called the punishment world is because when someone reaches the designated world through props such as the designated plot world card, to hunt down a certain reincarnation or perform other actions, the next world will be punishment world. The probabilities of the turn in the first 3 worlds are uncertain, and most of the time it will be the first 2. Quote. After explaining the mission world type, and Miaoyi also reminded, in the next camp confrontation mission, there may be teams from the same camp, but even so, they cannot be trusted lightly. If you have anything you want or want to know, you can also say silently to the Lord God and go to the Samsara Square to have a look. There are many things brought by others from the plot world, some of which are cheaper than the items on the Lord God's exchange list. Or it's not on the main God exchange list at all. You should have a lot of reincarnation points and plot rewards now. As in Miaoyi, who has experienced the battle in Infinite City, she knows that the reincarnation points and plot rewards Li Zan currently holds are definitely a terrifying amount. Li Zan nodded. He does have a lot of reincarnation points and plot rewards. Then I highly recommend you to go to the Reincarnator Square. After all, most of the items on the main God exchange list are only things recovered from the Reincarnator. I will consider it. Li Zan responded calmly. Yes. And Miaoyi also nodded, and then she exchanged a piece of paper and a pen with the Lord God, and wrote on it. After writing it, he handed it to Li Zan and said, "This is the address where Yaya and I are. If you need anything, you can come to us." This sounds like a special service. Li Zan took the note and stuffed it into his pocket. And Miao bowed to Li Zan again and said sincerely, "Thank you very much." Li Zan stopped looking at her and moved his eyes to the main god's big ball of light. When Miao and Luo Yaya saw that the other party was no longer talking to each other, they returned to the room together. They planned to take a rest first. Lord God. Thoughts of communicating with the Lord God emerged. The illusory redemption interface of the Lord God appeared in front of me, a dazzling array of items, and the interface was covered with various items. Bloodline, offensive skills, defensive skills, spiritual skills, medical items, arms, armor, appliance, space jewelry. Li Zan designated an item very purposefully. Space jewelry 1 meter 3 dead objects can be stored, but living objects cannot be stored. The type of jewelry can be selected. 1000 reincarnation points can be upgraded. Exchange. Please select your jewelry type. Ring. As the impression emerged in Li Zan's mind, a simple silver white ring slowly floated out of the light ball and landed on Li Zan's hand. Li Zan put the ring on his index finger. Very consistent. Upgrade. Li Zan felt that 1 cubic meter of storage space was far from enough, and wanted to expand the storage space for space accessories, so he thought to himself. It costs 5,000 reincarnation points to expand the storage space of space accessories from 1 cubic meter to 10 meters 3. Upgrade. Upgrading requires D-level plot rewards. Reincarnators do not have D-level plot rewards and cannot be upgraded. The reincarnator has a C-level plot reward, which can be decomposed into a D-level plot reward x3. Should it be decomposed? Breakdown. Decomposition successful. Upgraded successfully, spending 10,000 reincarnation points, D-level plot reward x1, and the storage space of space accessories expanded from 10 cubic meters to 100 meters 3. 100 cubic meters should be about the same as 2 containers. This should be enough. Li Zan stopped upgrading space accessories. Then, he kept scanning the items on the exchange list. But after looking at it for a long time, I found that there was nothing I cared about. With the sign-in system, he is really not interested in those vampire bloodlines and zombie bloodlines that require a lot of reincarnation points and plot rewards to gain a certain level of strength. Think about it later, Li Zan thought. So should we return to the real world now or go to the Samsara square mentioned by Miao first? He's a little wobbly. Let's go back to the real world first to see if it is the original world or the world corresponding to their seniors. He decides. Back to the real world. The thought fell. The scene around him suddenly changed. There is a lot of traffic and there are many high-rise buildings. Familiar real-life scenarios. It's a bit hard to tell which world this is. My original world also looked like this. Li Zan thought as he walked out of a certain alley. But the next moment he had the idea. He saw the beautiful communist country as expected to, played on the TV screen on the roadside. Okay, it's not a world. So what should we do now? Not in the original world, Li Zan didn't know what to do next. Looking for a place to stay. It would be better to go directly back to the room in the main god space. No human contact, nothing to do. Li Zan suddenly realized that he was a squatter. Let's try to wander around this world. After all, this is the real world that will be fixed in the future. Maybe there are a lot of interesting things. At any rate, this world has a main god space compared to the original real world. Under the influence of the main god space, it should be more interesting than the original boring real world. Hello, is there a bank nearby? Li Zan stopped a passerby and asked. He has no money now and plans to go to the bank to sign in and pay some money directly. Yes. The passerby who was randomly stopped thought that Li Zan was a role-playing enthusiast when he saw Li Zan's costume, and said to Li Zan with some enthusiasm, "Go forward about 200 meters from this road. Turn into the alley and go through the alley to Chongyang Street. There is a bank next to it." Quote, Li Zan followed the other person's instructions and came to the alley mentioned by passers-by. Hey, you have to pay for walking through here. Do you play cosplay? You must be very rich, right? Give me some to make me happy. A few arrogant gangsters suddenly blocked Li Zan's path. They have colorfully dyed hair, strange-shaped jewelry, wear shabby fashionable clothes that are so fashionable that they can cause rheumatism, and speak arrogant words. Li Zan looked back. I found that the alleyway I came in was blocked by the passers-by who just asked for directions and a few other gangsters. Brother, this one looks very rich. I got some points from you. A passerby said while rubbing his hands. It's easy to talk, a gangster said with a smile. Then they gradually approached Lizon. For a moment, Lizon's front and back were blocked. Are you deaf? I asked you to give me money. Do you hear me? The gangster who just asked for money shouted manically when he saw that Lizon didn't respond. Are the passers-by who asked for directions and answered in the same group? It seems that the location of the bank just mentioned must be fake. Should I use my sense of smell to smell something malicious before? He doesn't always have his sensitive smell turned on, and he doesn't want to smell strange smells all the time, so he only turns it on when he needs to use it. It's a bit of bad luck. Lizon turned his head, looked at the yelling gangster in front of him, and said indifferently. Ha 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 ha, you are indeed unlucky. The gangster in front of him laughed, and several gangsters behind him also laughed. Just grab it, this guy doesn't look very obedient. Lizon heard the gangster behind him echoing. Let's just cripple him. Some gangsters didn't like Lizon's calm appearance, so he picked up a steel pipe and smashed it against the wall, making a violent knocking sound. I'm talking about you being unlucky. Lizon said indifferently. He said we were unlucky. Ha 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 ha, doesn't this kid know what's going on with him? The gangster in front of the station pointed at Lizon and said. Then he said to the gangster holding the steel pipe, give him some color and see. Woohoo! The gangster holding the steel pipe shouted excitedly, and he raised the steel pipe and smashed it down on Lizon's head. The steel pipe carrying power made a frightening sound of wind pressure. If this stick hits an ordinary person's head, it will definitely cause a big blow. But in the next moment, the gangster holding the steel pipe found that his steel pipe had been smashed empty. Where are the people? He cried. As soon as he finished speaking, he noticed that the brother standing opposite him was looking behind him with a surprised look on his face. He seemed to have realized something. Then he found a palm grabbing the back of his head, and a force that made him unable to move was transmitted from the palm. Then, his face came into close contact with the wall. Boom! The sound of the skull hitting the stone wall resounded loudly. Blood and teeth also sputtered out. Lizon let go of his head, which was still twitching and howling in pain, and moved his eyes to the remaining frightened gangster. Smiling and asking, who has bad luck? The remaining gangsters felt a chill in their bodies. The bank is actually 500 meters back from where you asked for directions. In friendly communication, afterwards, the passerby with broken hands and feet lay on the ground and said tremblingly. Ah, no need now. Lizon said flatly. The money, borrowed, from the pockets of various gangsters was enough, and there was no need to go to the bank to sign for money. Hey! A loud shout suddenly came from the alley. Lizon looked and saw a man wearing sunglasses, a suit and shiny leather shoes, who looked very coquettish. It's really unbearable to see you bullying ordinary people here in broad daylight. I advise you to accept my sanctions as soon as possible. The man put on a very strange posture and said to Lizon in a loud voice. Big brother, please tell me if you have anything to say. I didn't know they were robbing you. I was wrong. Quote. The man who looked very coquettish just now was now lying on the ground with a bruised nose and a swollen face. His shiny leather shoes and clean suit were stained with a lot of dust and had many wrinkles. Even his sunglasses were broken, and the remaining frame was hanging cross-body. They're on the bridge of the nose. What are you doing? Lizon squatted down and asked. The man touched his head and said, I am from the Samsara Management Bureau. I detected the sudden aura here. When I came over, I saw you bullying ordinary people. Then I thought you were a bad guy. I'm a good person, don't worry. Lizon supported his chin with his hand and said casually. The man glanced at him, filled with bitterness. Then you beat me so badly. Can't you just explain it's a robbery? You can see it, you can see it. Although he was cursing in his heart, he still smiled apologetically on the outside. Then what are you going to do after you find me? Lizon asked. That's it. Just as the man was about to answer, he seemed to have seen something. His eyes lit up and he shouted loudly behind Lizon, Sister. This guy is hitting me. Come and beat him up. Take it out on me. Lizon turned around and looked. I saw a girl at the end of the alley who was also wearing sunglasses, a suit and extremely shiny leather shoes. Daching is a uniform, right? Li Zan thought in his mind. The girl held a lollipop in her mouth, put her hands on her hips, and said to Li Zan with an air of dignity, "Hurry up and let my little brother go. You bad guy." Aha, my eldest sister is the second stage of reincarnation. Just wait for the disaster. I told you to hit me. The man who was so timid just now suddenly became hardened after someone supported him. Watch me beat you up. The girl over there also spoke very irritably. What is the second stage? Li Zan asked the man on the ground. What other questions are you asking? Just wait until you cry. The man had no intention of answering Li Zan's question and laughed wildly. Li Zan glanced flatly at the arrogant girl who was gradually approaching and the arrogant man lying on the ground. Breaths gradually become longer. Full concentration. The second stage of reincarnation refers to the reincarnations who have spent at least 5 plot worlds and successfully promoted through promotion tasks. Such reincarnations are basically called elite reincarnations. Compared with ordinary reincarnations in the first stage, elite reincarnations in the second stage are generally stronger. Because they will be arranged to perform more severe tasks, they will also have richer rewards, and there will also be more preferential treatment. For example, the price of things recycled from the Lord God will be higher, and for example, it will be cheaper to bring things out of the plot world. The girl with a bump on her head took off her sunglasses, revealing her delicate and lovely face. She knelt on the ground obediently and explained to Li Zan. Is that so? Li Zan pondered for a moment, his eyes moving to the man who was also kneeling. He said you are an elite reincarnator in the second stage. Yeah, the girl nodded. A bit weak, Li Zan said. In his estimation, the man should be on the same level as seniors such as Miaoyi, and the girl's strength should be at the level of Zaihu in the world of Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yaiba. Although it is already very good compared to ordinary reincarnations, in Li Zan's opinion it is really not good enough. The girl was obviously a little angry, but she couldn't express it well. In the end, she could only turn her head and glare at her little brother. The younger brother noticed the scary look in his eldest sister's eyes and felt quite innocent in his heart. A person who has not registered is obviously a novice who is performing a mission for the first time. Who knew he was so perverted? You can't blame me. So let's continue with the unanswered question. What will you do after you find me? Li Zan repeated his previous question. We are from the Reincarnation Administration, specializing in the management of reincarnations. The girl took out a professional-looking black ID card from her suit pocket, opened it and showed it to Li Zan, and then continued, we will give everyone who enters the Lord God's space needs to register. This is also the purpose of our coming to you. How should I register? Li Zan asked. He was quite indifferent to this. Just state your name and ID number. Li Zan hesitated after hearing the other party's words. ID number. Can it be from another world? I am a gangster in this world. Where did I get my ID number? My name is Li Zan, and I am a gangster. Li Zan was very straightforward. The girl was also a little confused. Then she made a phone call, and after a series of conversations, she said to Li Zan, your ID card will be sent to your home in a few days. What is your current address? No address, Li Zan replied. The girl was about to have an attack but she forcibly suppressed it again. Do you need us to arrange one for you? That would be great. Li Zan still thinks it's better to have less worry. Who doesn't like whoring for nothing? By the way, Mr. Li Zan, do you want to join our Reincarnation Management Bureau? The girl suddenly invited. She was very interested in the other party's powerful strength. Although there were not all extremely powerful reincarnators in the administration, the other party was just a newcomer with such strength, and he would definitely have a bright future in the future. Not interested, Li Zan refused directly. He doesn't like to follow orders. The Reincarnation Management Bureau has generous salaries and comprehensive information channels. It even has many resources that are of great use to the reincarnations. You can exchange them with contribution points. The girl introduced. Not interested, Li Zan refused again. Hateful. The girl secretly gritted her teeth. Why do you think you are so nice to you after you beat us both up? Isn't it because I want to recruit you because of your strength? How disgusting. Thinking of this, she couldn't help but glare at her little brother. The younger brother was confused. There was no other way. I didn't dare to show my temper to Lizon, so I could only bully my younger brother. I'll give you a mobile phone. Our number is stored in it. If you have any questions, you can call us to communicate. If possible, I hope you will try not to use force. Making profits through illegal means is absolutely prohibited, the girl said from inside the suit. He took out a touchscreen mobile phone with a feather pattern printed on the back and threw it to Lizon. Lizon caught the phone and stuffed it into his robe. I got a cell phone for free, which is pretty good. Then, his eyes moved to the unconscious group of gangsters staggering on the ground. What about these? They do bad things and they bring it upon themselves. The girl directly concluded the gangsters' behavior. Then I'm going to change my clothes first. Lizon waved his hand and left. He hasn't changed into modern clothes since he came back from Demon Slayer. Although the current outfit looks cool, it is a bit too eye-catching. And you don't have to ask for directions when looking for a clothing store. After all, you have a free mobile phone. Just go up and search on the map. I have to say that these two people from the Samsara Management Bureau were quite friendly and allowed me to get so many things for free. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.